The DFB Pokal Cup is back. On Wednesday, 3rd March, we bring you the standout fixture as the top teams in Germany, RB Leipzig and Wolfsburg, take on each other in what is expected to be a cracker.
Njue, this is Njue! This man is red hot!
From 10:45 p.m. Don't miss these exciting games live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. Your true sports partner. Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
I've taken an oath to destroy the enemies of Magad, Father. Regardless of where they are hiding, I will hunt them down. I will go to any extent to protect my motherland. I will not hesitate and step back.
Go Ashok. Today put an end to this war between justice and injustice.
Oh my baby, replay, playing my favorite tune. Oh yeah, chance I'm ready your love. Oh, ready your love. My shaggy, I don't know passing us on your baby, my honey.
Tunakupa burudani.
Na umbea, yani stories zinazo trend kwenye mitandao ya kijamii.
See baby, now we are doing one. We are doing one.
Interview kali za wasanii wapendao.
Mguu pande panda milima. Aoye izungushie hapo ma. Kama una
Ndani ya March of Live kupitia KBC Channel 1 na Pwani FM.
Kuanzia mida ya saa 3 mpaka mida ya 5 kamili asubuhi. Ukiwa nami ni Teken 1GB.
Mimi ni Marco. Keep it locked.
Next on.
SMS zimejaa hapa kutoka juu mpaka chini, hakuna maandiko.
Nikuulize papi.
Hiyo simu hata nikwambia nitavunja.
Utavunja?
Nimeboeka sana bana.
Tafadhali hebu achana na hiyo simu kwanza.
Ngoja kidogo kwa
Mama simu sasa.
Utangoja nimalize simu yangu ama nikuhudumie? Kuna hospitali jirani huko unaweza enda. Na wewe umetoka kula takataka unakuja kuniletea hapa.
Unajua? Saturday yaandikangu hivyo.
Ni nini wewe? Kwani unasoma message zangu?
Uniungwana kweli? Nauliza tabia kama hizo, hasa nyinyi wadaku wa kuangalia simu za watu na kusikiliza maneno ya watu wanavyozungumza kwa simu, ni ungwana?
On the next episode of
Wapi sasa?
Yaani Saida hufungui?
Mume wangu, pana subra.
Dawa wote hasemi chochote?
Hasemi chochote, kazi yake tu kutafuta tu.
Huku ya hema kama lori.
Huku ya hema kabisa, nakwambia. Leo mpaka kanywa maji.
Kwani rafiki yangu? Kwani leo ulikuwa mficho wapi wewe? Ulikuwa mficho wapi wewe?
Wewe vipi mume wangu? Ha!
Good morning and welcome to Channel 1 News Check on this third day of the third month of the year 2021. A pleasure, and I'm hoping that you're having a fruitful Wednesday morning. It's time to be checking what is currently happening, and even before we began a topic of discussion, I believe what is really happening in the country, and the newest thing is that Kenya has been able to acquire the first batch of over 1 million doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, which actually landed in the country at about 11:20 there last night. And of course, health CS and other government officials were in line to welcome the vaccine. That is something that we will be looking at. But the topic of discussion today will be on the upcoming by-elections. Of course, we have 11 by-elections slated to be happening in the next 1 or 2 months, beginning with the Kabuchai and Matungu tomorrow, plus other wards, but we will also be looking at that. NCIC also did come out strongly yesterday and talked about maintaining peace and talked about leaders should observe and also politicians should observe the peace that is needed. They had a meeting with the Editors Guild. We will be also touching on that. But first things first, let's first of all go to the newest thing in town. Kenya has the vaccine, and health CS did talk about that being the first batch, and others are slated to be coming. And of course, the health care workers or the frontline workers in the war against COVID-19 will be the first to benefit from this vaccine. And if you didn't have a chance to see exactly what happened, you can see that that is the Qatar plane that actually brought in the first batch of the vaccine. And of course, the health CS had alluded that on Tuesday night is when the Kenya will be receiving, and as you can see, that was the first batch, which will also be taken to the government facilities before it is distributed to all the 47 counties. Healthcare workers being the first, and of course security personnel will also benefit from the vaccine, and also teachers and anyone working in the health sector will be the first to benefit.
The war against COVID-19. As soon as these vaccines leave here, they are going straight to Kitengela, where we have got very good storage facilities. And from there on, it will roll out to the rest of the country, beginning with the regional hospitals, down to the level 4s, level 3s, and level 2 hospitals. And we will also be engaging the private sector, institutions, the hospitals, so that they can also assist. We are starting with our health workers. Kenya has approximately 400,000 health workers in the country. After that, we are going to roll out to other frontline workers. We have got the police, we have got the teachers and other people. After that, we are going to go to people with comorbidities, people who have got other infectious, people who have got other diseases, so that we can also protect them.
This health CS last night, after receiving the first shipment of the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine at the JKIA, and as we've heard that it will be rolled out in the country in the next coming days, the health workers being the first, of course, to benefit. But before we also touch on that, let's have a look at what my colleagues have also lined up for you today. Those are just some of the things that we will be looking at also today during News Check and, of course, in our news bulletin. My name is Njue. Lensa Odingo is our sign language interpreter for this morning. And as alluded to earlier, is that today we are discussing matters, politics, and especially when we talk about the Kabuchai and the Matungu by-elections. But first things first, let me introduce my guest today. He's not a new face here. We have had some interviews and also some analysis with him. He's Churchill Saoke, who is a governance expert. Karibu sana, Mr. Churchill.
Thank you so much.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Looking at those clips there, a ray of hope for Kenya, and especially our healthcare workers. And it's a good thing because we are one of the first to receive the COVID-19 vaccine in Africa.
Indeed.
Yes.
I mean, you know, this pandemic had come at a time when people did not really expect that an innovation will come that fast. I mean, we are experiencing one of the moments when the world is developing a vaccine in the fastest, shortest time possible because of the nature of this vaccine. So I think because of the nature of this pandemic. So I think that this is quite a ray of hope for this country, and maybe moving forward, we just need to have a mindset amongst the populace with regards to these vaccines. You know, there has been a lot of information doing round across the globe regarding the impact of these vaccines, and some of those negative perceptions might have an impact in people wanting to take jabs.
Indeed, and talking of negative, of course, we cannot turn a blind eye on all the concerns that have also been raised in regards to the vaccine, the distribution, and of course, some people talking about being a clear chain of distribution, because we've seen what happened in KEMSA in the COVID-19. Kindly, in 1 minute.
In fact, that is something that is Kenyans are really going to watch on the ministry and the government, because, you know, as expected, this is something that is very prestigious, and if the rollout is not very clear, there is possibility of people in high-ranking, people with high powers taking advantage and, you know, just channeling some of those vaccine into private entities, then make money with them, which will in the long run taint the government very negatively.
Indeed. And of course, we will be keeping a keen eye, keeping our eyes peeled for that. Of course, the health CS will be holding other press conferences to actually clear out any speculation or telling us exactly where those vaccines are going. And of course, we also expect them to be the first, as many Kenyans have said, is that we also expect our leaders to be on the forefront to actually help Kenyans understand more about this vaccine, and also being the first also to receive the jab. Away from that, as we had started earlier, we're talking about politics, and especially the by-elections that are slated. Some are slated for tomorrow. There's another one slated for March 18th of this year. But what do we know? We have 11 upcoming by-elections, of course, 2 parliamentary and 9 ward by-elections. 2 will be tomorrow. We're talking about Matungu in Kakamega County and also Kabuchai in Bungoma, where we also have ward elections tomorrow, by-elections actually. Huruma Ward in Uasin Gishu, we have Hell's Gate and London Ward in Nakuru, Kiamokama Ward in Kitui, we also have Kitise Kithuku Ward in Makueni. What do we know? Kabuchai and Matungu by-elections have raised a lot of dust. You will agree with me, Churchill. And during the campaign, we've seen some Pandi saying that this could shape the Western Kenya politics, as we have had a robust political feature and scenery at the Western Kenya. And of course, Matungu by-election has attracted 15 candidates, of which 9 are independent candidates, with 62,386 registered voters expected at the ballot tomorrow morning. And a fierce battle is expected there. Of course, the big parties there, ODM, ANC, Ford Kenya, and the new entrant, UDA, which has been linked to the DP William Ruto. In Kabuchai has 56,000 registered voters. ODM will not be fielding a candidate there. James Lusweti was the MP and was elected on a Ford Kenya party ticket. It has attracted 8 candidates. And of course, the ward also by-elections will play a key role in determining the leaders that those by-elections will bring. And before we even look at the Matungu and Kabuchai by-elections, perhaps we can start with what NCIC talked about yesterday. The National Cohesion and Integration Commission yesterday had a presser and a breakfast meeting with the Editors Guild when they talked about politicians, warning politicians against propagating hate speech, and said that they will be held culpable. And actually they began a campaign yesterday that they have dubbed Elections Bila Norma. It's a slang for peaceful elections, and to ensure that we have peaceful general polls next year. Media's role in promoting peace, and urge them to give a blackout to those inciting Kenyans. And of course, the Editors Guild had a presser yesterday, and we can first of all listen to what they said before we get deeper into this discussion.
In this quest to quell the evil of hate speech, tribalism, electoral violence, ethnic contempt, we must be the good people who stood up to be counted.
We've set up a multi-agency task force, okay, between NCIC, the DPP, the EACC, the DCI, and also the judiciary.
NCIC must ensure that those who incite others to war, to violence, hatred, and chaos should not be cleared to run for elective office.
That's just some of the things that NCIC had to say, and of course there the Kenya Editors Guild Deputy President Samuel Maina talking about NCIC to publicly name those politicians, and because they've talked about a multi-sectoral approach, he wants that those who are propagating hate should not be cleared for elective position. Okay.
I think that is a much more pragmatic approach with regards to dealing with some of the politicians. I find in the recent days, NCIC has been doing the same things that they have been doing before, which has never given results in terms of curbing politicians from promoting violence. And they really need to do something different this time around. And what the Editors Guild is proposing is a little bit more practical. Because when politicians, when their career is at stake, they'll do everything possible to ensure that they protect their names. Just the same way they protect themselves from getting into corrupt deals to make themselves into the ballot. If that multi-sectoral approach is able to come up with a framework that, you know, if you get into the red list, you will not be able to vie for any political position, then it will send a very strong signal to the political leaders. Otherwise, the whole concept of sensitization of election bill and norm, I mean, that's hot air. The politicians have had that all years and every day, and it will just come into the news and pass, and the politicians will remember that violence is from a political theoretical perspective, violence is an important tenet for winning election. Because the politician is interested in acquiring power through whichever means. So you must find an institutional framework of curbing this ambition. And that can only be achieved using this multi-sectoral approach, where you constrain that ambition within the framework of the law, so that other people's rights are not violated in the process of you achieving your ambition.
And in NCIC, they urge the media to give blackouts to politicians who propagate hate. And I remember a couple of weeks we had Danvas Makori, who is a commissioner there, and he talked about something very practical. For media, when we have politicians fighting like what we saw in the barrio, or when politicians are actually insulting each other, that is when people are clapping, and that is where now the cameras are, and that actually will be a juicy story, and especially for online media.
And then, you know, but you know, the challenge is that while giving them blackout will sort of make sense, the question is, where do you draw the line between media as an agent for sensitizing the public on the negative things that are happening, so that action can be taken, and blacking them out? Where do you draw the line? It's a very thin line, because you may give these people blackout and end up not showcasing the negative things that are happening against innocent public. So in the long run, the negative things continue to happen because you are giving blackout to the politicians. And human rights violation continues to proceed on because of this blackout. So I think while it might be an approach, the thin line is not there. And for me, I find that in as much as it may slightly work, the role is still with NCIC. They have a constitutional mandate, which they should not delegate to the media. They should not delegate that responsibility to the media. They have a constitutional mandate to ensure that there is integration among ethnic communities and different political entities and groupings in this country. They need to find innovative mechanisms of making that happen as we move towards the election year.
Indeed. And the Editors Guild, Deputy President Samuel Maina, yesterday in his speech, he talked about NCIC, it's time to bite now.
Yes.
We even had the list of shame.
Yes.
It's time to bite now.
Yes.
And you've seen Danvers Makori there talking about we are working on a multi-sectoral approach, such that they have partnered with DPP, the office, the Director of Public Prosecution. They have talked about the DCI and other agencies, including EACC and the judiciary. Well, do you think really they are biting? Because the last time we checked, they just issued a list of which some people talked about that list could even make these politicians more famous.
You know, and for me, I think that the most important thing is what is the next step after that list. The next step after that list is what will make them significant. And as the Deputy President of the Editors Guild said, biting the bullet after that next list is what will be significant in curbing this political violence in Kenya. And you know, I can tell you for free that the NCIC should look at the media as an agent for creating the perception of the direction that they want the public to view these politicians. The former commission came up with something called the hate speech. And hate speech did round. Now, the perception around hate speech was not choreographed, or it was not crafted in a manner to make the politicians look evil. And that is what NCIC needed to tactfully think of. How do you turn the list of shame into something that not only becomes an agent of evil among the populace, but even an agent of evil within the cause of diplomatic engagement and other multilateral agencies that the politicians might want to work with once they get into power? Because when political leaders get into power, their role is to ensure they lead the country, and in leading the country, they'll need other agencies. Now, if your name is tainted, these agencies will not want to work with you. So why don't they find a way of creating this so-called list of shame, be so shameful that even the diplomatic corps do not want to engage with you? They see you and they see this is a murderer. And so that will curb you. It might not necessarily, it might make you be popular among the electorate. But if the electorate vote you and the people who you need to work with do not agree with you, where will you go? You cannot penetrate within the international system or within even the national framework of engagement as a leader. The framework or the institutions that will make you effective as a leader. So that innovative thinking and a multi-sectoral approach needs to go just beyond the judicial system. It needs to go out beyond the judicial system for it to be much more effective.
And away from NCIC, let's look at IBC. 2 days ago, they announced that, of course, the campaigns had reached climax, and they talked about a free, fair election in all the two constituencies, the senatorial and all the by-elections. But looking at what we saw, even in media, we saw some clips circulating of voter bribery, and we saw some politicians in the same picture, and they're talking about a free, fair election free of any corruption.
So this is still also what I will call still institutions making statements that do not have implementation frameworks. And you believe that when you make a declaration the people will follow. That is not necessarily the case. You must have an implementation mechanism that safeguards a directive that you have given. So if IBC said that, you know, they have said that the campaigns are ending yesterday, what was the mechanism of ensuring that directive takes effect? They didn't have that. So that is why politicians will take advantage of it. And I can tell you, Ben, in all these, you will realize that the politician is just doing what a politician does. He takes advantage of the loopholes to get his quick gains or the low-hanging fruits for the purposes of acquiring power. And that is why we have institutions that must safeguard the country's interest by cutting those ambitions and greed of politicians.
And still on IEBC, before we go to the Kabuchai and the Matungu by-elections, Treasury did talk about last month, I think they talked about 84.5 million, of course, to recruit additional commissioners to fill the vacant positions at IEBC. But looking at the BBI, of course, after passing, one of the proposals is that it be reconstituted. See, and we are now talking about passing the BBI, we're talking about 84.5 million for commissioners. Is it the wrong timing?
Well, it is. It depends on which direction we look at it. If you look at it in terms of establishing a sustainable institution for electoral practices, then it is possible for us to say that the timing is wrong because it is too much focused. It is too much focused on the upcoming referendum. But then when you look at it at the political level, then the timing is right. The timing is right because the timing is right because the politicians that be and those who are pro the BBI process will want to ensure that every hurdle that is ahead of that process is sorted. To ensure that the constitutional amendment comes through. But as to how sustainable that will be beyond the referendum is now the other question of that sustainability. Because you see, you can be so focused on recruiting the commissioners for the referendum until you forget the impact of that post the referendum. And even get people who might help achieve the political interest as is, but might not really help achieve the interest of the institution beyond the referendum. Yes.
And looking at still on IEBC, looking at last year when we had the by-elections, and especially at Msambweni, looking at in Kahawa Wendani, looking at the voter turnout, it was extremely low because there were incidences and there were also cases that of voter intimidation. IEBC was supposed to take action so that the 11 that are coming by elections are free from what we saw.
And then you know also, I think the other thing about the voter turnout, while the IBC, their role may be to ensure that there is a free level play for a free political level play for all parties to do their political game. In terms of the voter turnout, the politicians must do their work. They must do their work to do mobilization of the public. You know, the voter turnouts are usually more influenced, one, yes, as you say, by the level playing platform, and then two, by how much the people have captured the aspirations of the leaders who are being elected. So it means, I mean, the leaders who are aspiring. So it means that a low voter turnout might be as a result of people losing interest from the aspirations of the leaders who are vying. And so they are saying, you know what, this thing is not really, this election is coming up, but then I don't see value in it. I'm not seeing any of my dreams being part of this by-election. So why should I waste my time going to sell my mboga and go and vote, which will going to take a long time? But then at the same time, the commission has a responsibility to ensure that the people know that those who want to go vote know that when you Take your time to go vote. There will not be violence. There will not be other intimidation related with divergence of political thought. And you will go vote for the candidate you want to vote for and come back home safe and secure.
And looking now at the larger Western politics, and of course the Kabuchai and Matungu, Ford Kenya and ANC MPs, and may God rest their souls in eternal peace. Yeah. But ANC, Ford Kenya, and ODM could be mentioned as the biggest political parties in Western. Yes. But we have a new kid on the block. We have UDA, and we cannot also ignore the independent candidates. The political scene that we are looking at. How can you rate the campaigns that have just concluded?
The interesting thing with the current by-elections is that it is a major contest. In terms of, one, it's going to be a test for the key political players in that region. And then two, the political, especially the major political players in that region. And then the candidates are already showing signals of their interest for those seats, not just now.
Yes.
But even in 2022.
So we can call it a dress rehearsal?
Exactly. That's the right word. It's a dress rehearsal. So some of these candidates are not necessarily into this election to win the election. But they are sending a sign out there that, you know what, I'm into this, I have this interest in this, and if there is any political party that might have interest in me, I'm up for grabs, especially the independent candidates. In fact, the independent candidates, you'll find most of them have got really nothing to lose.
Yes.
They just want, some of them are non-starters. They just want their names to be seen in the ballots and
test the waters.
Exactly, to test the waters. People begin to call you Mheshimiwa, and when you go to the meetings and the funerals, they give you a chance to speak,
and sit there
and sit in front, and when you come with your people, you know. So that is it. But then for the big political parties, it is totally a different ballgame. It is a do or die for them. Because if they lose this election, it is going to dim on their political lights in terms of their clout and political capital in that region. And specifically, as you have always seen in Western Kenya, there is a lot of division. The unity, the so-called Luhya unity, is extremely elusive because of some other historical issues that have always been there within that region. And so you realize that there will always be different kingpins in that region. And in each of those specific sub-regions, the kingpins also have interest in ensuring they maintain their kingpins, their kingmanship. Otherwise, if they try not, somebody else will rise. Yes.
And talking about somebody else will rise, we have the new kid on the block, UDA. In as much as the Deputy President hasn't talked much about it, is that his allies are backing candidates who will be voted on a UDA party.
Yes.
Looking at the period that UDA has been around, and looking at other big political parties in Western, like ANC, we have ANC, Ford Kenya, ODM, and other parties that also play a key role in determining who will take the seat. UDA entrant into Western Kenya. It's a well-oiled machine, looking at the campaigns that they're holding, looking at the allies and those people drumming up support for these candidates. You see, well, they are seasoned politicians, they have the financial muscle, but they're entering somewhere that we have kingpins. We have Ford Kenya, we have ANC, we also have ODM.
And you know, that is the biggest challenge that UDA must work on. Because you see, UDA has been formed on this so-called narrative and ideology of hustler.
Yes.
The people who are, raising up people who are doing their businesses and trying to promote them. Well, that is an ideology that is able to galvanize a population into one, it is like the Marxist ideology, that we are poor because they are rich. So that Marxist thinking is able to galvanize people into one direction. But then the challenge with it, the challenge with that theory is that it assumes the homogeneity of people. It assumes that the electorate are homogeneous and that they will be able to think like that irrespective of where they come from. As to how that will happen in Western Kenya is still a big question that I'm still yet to be convinced. Because in the cocoons, you'll be hustler movement, but then within your cocoons, you will still act like this is Bungoma, this is Vihiga, this is Busia, okay? This is Kakamega. And who are the kingpins that are able to rise and help him galvanize the votes in those constituencies? The person who has really come out so clearly to be like the kingpin of Ruto's is the Kimilili Member of Parliament. But Kimilili Member of Parliament, he comes from Bungoma. How well will he be accepted in Vihiga? How well will he be accepted in Busia? So those are issues that you might realize that it is possible to have an oiling machine that creates charisma before election, but after election you realize that the charisma was hollow. Because the ideology around the charisma did not take into consideration the heterogeneity of thinking of that whole grouping.
And indeed, and some pundits have argued that UDA is there to spoil the party for ANC, Ford Kenya, and of course ODM.
Well, for me, I think that apart from that, they are also interested in popularizing the party. So they might not necessarily be into it to win the election as well, but they also want to show. Remember that the key thing that the UDA really is really fighting now is to show that it's a national party. It is bringing all the hustler members into a political vehicle. And this political vehicle must be nationalistic in perception. And so in that so doing, therefore, you must show that this vehicle is acceptable in Western region, it is acceptable in Coast region, it is acceptable in Eastern and all the other parts of the country, including Nairobi and Central. So in terms of creating that national perception, just fielding a candidate solves the issue. Whether the candidate wins or not, even if the candidate comes third, it is a gain for him. Because the party is new anyway. Yes.
And still on UDA, looking at Msambweni election, which of course it was quite a surprise, looking at parties like ODM, very strong parties, but they really suffered a big dent in Msambweni because of something that was backed, or something that somebody who was backed by the DP.
Yes.
Could we see such a surprise when we go to the ballot tomorrow? Hold the thought. I hear that Musalia Mudavadi is currently speaking, and let's first of all listen in, then we'll come back to this live discussion.
And in Kabuchai, the people of Western Kenya have always demonstrated the need to work peacefully, to make decisions peacefully, to make decisions without violence. And that is why we are called the people of Mulembe. Mulembe simply means peaceful people. So we expect that the democratic process, as guaranteed in our constitution, shall prevail, and the will of the people of Matungu in particular and in Kabuchai shall be reflected in the process that starts tomorrow. The campaigns are over, and that is what we expect. We want the IEBC to be extremely vigilant, impartial, and thorough in their operations, so that nothing happens that is outside the legal framework of an electoral process. We have had generally very good campaigns. It has been intense, at least when I look at Matungu, where I spent more time, although I also went to Kabuchai. The competition was intense, but people have now gone through that process, and we await the results tomorrow. The only thing that I want to highlight, and we want the IBC to take care of that, is that it has also come to our knowledge, and indeed Senator Malala spoke to this issue yesterday, that some county government, Kakamega County government officials have maneuvered their way into delicate areas of the IBC operation. Some of them have even been recruited. And we highlighted one or two. We want the IBC to take corrective action immediately, because it is so obvious that the governor has been at the center and the forefront, Governor of Kakamega, in campaigning for the ODM candidate. So any of his officials being involved directly in the process of managing the elections in Kakamega or in Matungu in particular, then is out of line. It's a breach. It has come to our knowledge that one of them was even positioned to work within the results transmission. He's an IT person, but he's an officer of the Kakamega County government. That is not acceptable. We have the details. We have communicated to IABC. We also are being told that there are CECs. These are public officers. Whether you are in the national government or you are in the county government, you are a public officer. And you should not get entangled in the electoral process. We also have their names. And if they do not back out and follow the issues of integrity, we are going to forward their names to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Institution so that they can be challenged on matters of integrity. So they know themselves. They know what their role should be. And we tell them, don't get entangled in the electoral process of Matungu. You're a public officer.
That is ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi actually making some some allegations. They are talking about some county officials are being used actually in the campaigns, and as he has said that they have already communicated to IABC. Perhaps we will respond to that, but we'll take our first break. Then when we come back, we will be discussing what ANC leader has just talked about in Vihiga in regard to tomorrow's by-elections.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Mimi naitwa mzee Sabasaba. Na nitalimaza lenyewe. Nisafishe roho yangu. Ponda mali at your own risk.
Wow.
Yaani kila siku kila nikikukanya wewe usikii, waleta ukibadilisha tu.
Mimi ni tajiri bwana.
Basi uniambia ujao.
Huyu nani baba huyu?
This is my house girl.
Hebu nishusha hadhi. Subiri kuteseka baba.
Wazungu wasema it's okay. Wazungu sema it's okay.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Ashanti Kotoko. I don't wanna be lonely tonight. Na. Where the sun survivors. Is how you interpret. Cause the belly of the beast not too far off from what's on the surface.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
It's him. Amaya's husband. He was the man who ran me over in Chiapas. That guy was there when we met. Then why did she lie to me? Why?
I don't know why you insist on saying that he was in Chiapas.
Because I saw him. Because he was your husband who ran me over and left me lying on the street when you and I were in Chiapas.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Mimi naitwa mzee Sabasaba. Na nitalimadha lenyewe. Safishe roho yangu. Ponda mali at your own risk.
Wow. Yaani kila siku kila nikikukanya wewe usikii waleta ukibadilisha tu.
Mimi ni tajiri bwana.
Basi uniambia ujeoe.
Huyu nani baba huyu?
This is my house girl.
Hebu nishusha hadhi. Subiri kuteseka baba.
Wazungu wasema it's okay. Wazungu sema it's okay.
Welcome back to News Check, and thanks for keeping us company. And today we are discussing matters Kabuchai and Matungu by-elections. Remember, tomorrow starting 5 a.m. or there is 63 and 56,000 registered voters are expected to cast their ballots in the by-election. Remember, we are live from the broadcasting house. We are also live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, and also on our KBC app. And joining me in studio is a governance expert, Churchill Saoke. And before we took that short break, ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi did talk about quite some serious allegations, talking about county officials, even mentioned the governor of Kakamega being part of the group that want to skew the elections, and talk about even the IT guy. Perhaps, Churchill, we can touch on that. Those are quite some serious allegations. I talked about he has reached out to IEBC. And if nothing changes by tomorrow, he's talking about going to the EACC and other agencies. And indeed, those are extremely grave allegations at this time, and which touches on the integrity of the process. And I think that it's good that he has highlighted some of those issues and raised them with the respective agencies. I mean, that's extremely civil for a leader. Yes. The worst that he would have done is to mobilize people to go and beat those people. So I think he has done he's taken a very civilized responsibility. And so it's up to some of those agencies to uptake the allegations that have been raised by the ANC leader and ensure that the process follows the due process of the law, and those that are culpable are brought into the book. Because you see, the moment you're even talking about aspects of IT, that's very serious. Yes, it's very, very serious. And perhaps, what are some of the factors that are going to play out in the by-election? Looking at first of all, perhaps we can touch on Matungu, where the widow of the former MP, Justice Murunga, is expected also to square it out with his stepson in tomorrow's by-election. And something unique is that they are, all the two of them, actually want to be elected on an independent ticket.
You know, this is very interesting.
Some affairs.
Some affairs. It's very interesting that politics now has gotten, the politics from the home has now gotten outside. And by the way, just even before I delve into that, sometimes these things are manifestations also of what happens within the home.
Yes.
When the moment you see families becoming political rivals, it means that even within the home as well, they're rivals. So it's a projection of that. So, but then that being so, there are a lot of things that are going to play in terms of determining the election of the Matungu by-election, and one of them, of course, is the political party, which is very key. Remember that this is a constituency that is slightly a little bit metropolitan in nature, because it also has people from the other side draws also some other people from the Luo Nyanza, who also come from, who also are domiciled in Matungu. And intermarriages are there's a lot of intermarriages there. And as a result, therefore, you will find that in Kakamega County, the governor is really interested in holding and being the key person, being the kingpin of that county.
And perhaps because he's an official of, he's a top official of the ODM party?
Exactly, because he's a top official of the ODM party, and he also has a projection of being the kingpin of Western Kenya. And in the hope that he might be able, being that he's the deputy party leader of ODM, he can be able to galvanize the support base of Raila's after his exit, if he will exit. And so this really is a very important contest for him. So even when you see him getting his county machineries down to campaign, it's a do or die for him as well, because maybe his party boss has told him, we got to deliver this, got to deliver this election. But then the ANC is also really interested in countering that and projecting himself that, you know what, I'm not just a kingpin of Vihiga County, and now I'm now getting into the bedroom of my political rival, who is the governor of Kakamega County. And so, in terms of political leverage, I am above, because in the ultimate end, you know, when you look at what the gentleman is saying, Atwoli has been crying for this Luya unity. Who will be the Luya kingpin? There's that war between the Mudavadi and not Wetangula, and the governor for Kakamega, which is Oparanya. So that election, what is at stake is really the kingmanship of Western Kenya. And so those are things that are also likely to bring into play in terms of the election. Some of these other independent candidates are likely to divide some of the votes. They're likely to divide some of the votes.
And before we talk about, because the independent candidates, of course, play a key role in the outcome of the election. His allegations, could they stir some political waters in Western?
Absolutely, it could stir political waters, because you see, it's a and by the way, we might also want to look at it in terms of, is it also a ploy? Because, you know, it could be wanting also to create a scenario where, you know, you're now looking at the idea of working from the reverse psychology of being the one who is being beaten, so that you get the tears votes. So that could also be a possibility, but you're not saying the allegations could be very true, and the agencies must take into account of that. But then down into the ground, people will also see that, you know what, these people have support framework from government, or it has a support framework for someone who has not helped us in any way. So if this person is being supported by somebody who has not helped us and has been in government, we are not going to support him. So it will have some sort of replica effect on some few votes as well.
And before Musalia Mudavadi spoke, we had touched on, we were talking about UDA and whether it can actually try and muscle out the big parties in Western. Why I brought up that conversation, we did see Omar Boga being trounced by Faisal Bada, who was actually had a very, very good campaign with the UDA supporters or sympathizers. He was backed by the deputy president. Are we likely to see such a scenario?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because the situation is different. At that time, it was between two political rivals. But now we have political rivals fighting among themselves with a new entrant. So the new entrant has more work to do to get themselves into the same level playing platform with the other rivals. So the key players in Western will be totally different from the key players in Msambweni.
It could be thanks for coming.
Yes.
And participating.
We can consider them independent candidates.
Of course. We also look at the campaign. We have seen several incidences of voter bribery. We saw even in television and also on social media.
Yes.
Something that we expected that all agencies involved would actually try and tame that. Because looking at Western, we have ODM, which has been there for quite a while. We also have Ford Kenya and ANC, which perhaps the Mulembe Nation could say, these are our own kids, these are our own political parties from Western Kenya. What do you think is likely to play out? Because looking at the galvanization of the Western or the Mulembe Nation, we have Musalia Mudavadi, we also have Wetangula, and we have key players like Francis Atuoli talking about we want to consolidate our voting bloc. Do you think perhaps they should have done that before this election, or it's pure democracy when we talk about two big parties in the Mulembe Nation fighting it out, but we are talking about a unity? Perhaps they should have done what Jubilee and ODM have done in some of the parties, like Jubilee never fielded a candidate in Msambweni, and the same thing replicated in Kawawendani, where ODM never fielded a candidate.
And that is now because of the heterogeneous situation of the voter in Western Kenya, which therefore necessitates that there is need for a much more different mechanism of finding this unity. Of course, this unity is something that has always been sought for very many years, and it is not something that you can just get over instantly. There must be a process, there must be a mechanism of achieving that, and maybe as to whether they will be able to achieve it through what they are doing now, it is something to really look at, because, you know, these are all people who are harboring ambition. And when you look at the concept of real politique, when you look at the concept of real politique, that is where the real unity is tested. It's not really whether, even when you look at the Jubilee and the ODM, the way they are doing their swerving, of, you know, give me this, I take this. It is not really necessarily that, you know, they are seeking unity. You can't really talk about unity at that stage until it reaches the point of real politique, where we are now saying that, you know what, this is the position, it's only one position. Leave it for me. Now that is the true test of unity. So as to whether these other machinization will be able to achieve and say that, you know what, we are saying that, Mudavadi, we are saying that it is, support Wetangula for presidency. That is the true test of unity, the real politique. Yes.
But it's quite a democracy looking at all the parties that are jostling for those two big political seats.
Well, that one is democracy. That is democracy for them, and, you know, each one of them, as I said, is into this to achieve different purposes.
The Mulembe Nation has quite some sub-tribe, and honestly, they have played a key role in determining the leaders that they have. Looking at the two political kingpins there, we have Musalia Mudavadi and we have Moses Masika Wetangula. We have seen some parts really side with one political leader, and the others, of course, another kingpin. Is this likely to play out?
It has played around, and some of this, it is extremely historical. It's extremely historical, and it has also been entrenched by political interest from outside and from inside. You know, the Luhya Nation is a very big voting bloc.
Yes.
And some of the people who wanted to have influence and rule the country really sought ways of ensuring they divide that region so that they do not have one voice like other parts of the country. And so this really has been entrenched even within the people, to the extent that achieving it has become very difficult. Achieving the unity has become very difficult, and you'll always find that there is always discord, a lot of discord between some of the key sub-ethnic communities that they do not really want to agree ideologically with others. So the unification, therefore, is a process that cannot just be achieved. And
they've been seeking unification for quite a while.
Yeah, so it has to be some process that it must take for it to get it. I mean, when you look at 202, that was a time when the region was united under Kijana Wamalwa.
Yes.
And he was able to unify the whole of that region. So it is possible to unify them as long as there is a mechanism of doing it. But you know, Kijana Wamalwa was very charismatic, and he was very fluent in his speeches, and he could be able to galvanize people in whatever we want to do. Actually, if you listen to him, you'll do whatever he wants you to do.
You're indeed watching Channel 1 News Check on this third day of March, and today we are looking at the upcoming by-elections. Of course, we expect a lot of debate, and we also expect a lot of heated political temperatures tomorrow when we have the Kabuchai and Matungu by-elections. And of course, I'm talking about heated because looking at what ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi has just talked about in regards to tomorrow's elections, you can bear me witness that, of course, it's gonna rattle some feathers. And right now, we're joined by another governance expert who is Wilfred Moliro. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much.
And indeed,
it's always a pleasure to be here.
Exactly. Thank you so much. It's a while. I haven't seen you
for some time.
Yes. We are looking at the Kabuchai and Matungu by-election, and as I had alluded earlier, is that the Mulembe Nation has a lot of subtribe which also play a key role in determining their leaders. Looking at the two seats, one was had an ANC leader and the other had a Ford Kenya leader.
I think I heard what my brother was saying here, and I agree to some level with one element that some of the divisions are historical. But we need to get one thing, that two, in fact. The first one is that the Luhya unity story is some hot air from outside. Because for one reason, that Luhyas, just like any other member of this republic called Kenya, are also, you know, they're diverse, like Kalenjins, like anybody. And nobody, you know, even Kikus have had at one time more than 4 candidates. And nobody pumps into their head or projects the propaganda that they need that unity. And I'm saying this for one reason, is that, and it comes close to what he was saying, that the so-called Luhya unity, which should not be the song, is because the leaders do not go to the people to unite them. They sit in boardrooms and like other places. And when they sit in boardrooms to talk about the Luhyas, there's always an outsider. And therefore, you try to create a picture that if I cannot have all the Luhyas, I have my section which I can sell to you. So Raila Odinga, we can see you are very powerful. I can bring a section of Luhyas. I think that's what he was alluding to. But the day that they will just allow, you know, it happens. During Masinde Muliro's time, nobody sang the song. They were united. We can talk of even during Moses Mudavadi himself, Luhyas were united in their way of doing things. Wamalwa Kijana the same, there was all that song. But the time came when now those who did not have the charisma were actually coming up with their own subsections. You know, they were now bringing out that if I cannot unite all the Luhyas, I'll bring the Bukusu. Or if I cannot do that, then I'll bring the Maragoli. But we are seeing it, and I think I agree to some level with the Musalia Mudavadi. We have had that hiatus for some time. But this is a time that the people themselves are going to unite behind a candidate that they think is credible. And therefore, a candidate emerges in this process of leader-subject interactions. It's not this story that is... And, you know, it also surprises me, John, that sometimes the Luya unity is sung louder by people who are not Luyas, the Luyas themselves. But then you look at the other communities, you find that it is not that way. So I agree with the ANC leader that why do you sing the song when it comes to Luyas? You start singing the song that please elusive. And I think even the media also has been bought, but that's a system of pushing. Whoever has a machinery, it's a politics of content production. So whoever has that machinery can do that. So they also play that and say, Luya, elusive, you know, unity. But it is emerging. It will just be almost like what happened during Wamalwa Kijana's time. Organically, the people themselves look at an array of leaders and they say, we think our interests will be projected by this leader. And I'm saying this in the sense that the leaders are now listening to the bells, the barometer of politics on the ground. And it is the one now forcing for the first time, it's forcing the leaders, including, that is Wetangula and Musalia Mudavadi. It is now forcing them to do what the community wants. For a long time, they have been telling the community to do what they think they want. So we can see that, and that's why even the idea that Ford Kenya could not field their candidate in Matungu is the same. I'm very sure that if they had ANC and Ford Kenya going to Matungu, then you'll have that repercussions. Both will lose. There'll be and I think at that time
they don't want to be seen
at that time, I'm very sure Oparanya will have performed very well. Even national now. But you see this time where Musalia Mudavadi has reached, he cannot, he's now the one to be bending back to carry the rest. We cannot cheat ourselves. I think so. And he's doing that to show the graciousness in Kabuchai. That now I'm the father of this kraal called Luya. So my young brother here, you have had, you see, it is historical from the time there was a coup. So Musalia Mudavadi found an opening to show that he is the leader of the Luyas. And you know, a leader is the one who brings people and tries to look at the child who is being hit, he brings them. So he stood by Wetangula, because Wetangula has his own also section that follows him. But even if he didn't have that power, it was right for Musalia Mudavadi to stand by a brother who is falling on the ground. So he's doing that by allowing him to have a candidate in Kabuchai. And I'm sure I can tell you, if ANC also looked for a candidate locally from Kabuchai, they will still perform very well. But at what loss? So in Kabuchai, it is different. If Wetangula and Musalia Mudavadi went neck to neck, then the new party, that is, I think, Ruto's party, would go through. But in Matungu is now, it is ODM. I think the picture is in that design, isn't it? In Matungu, it's Musalia Mudavadi against ODM, and in Kabuchai, it is Musalia Mudavadi through Wetangula against the new UDA. I don't know whether, but that's what I think is on the ground.
Yes, and perhaps away from what we are talking about, because we've introduced the issue of kingpins. We're looking at the ODM candidates. Of course, he's backed by the Jubilee because of the handshake. We are looking at Moses Masika, Wetangula. We are looking at Musalia Mudavadi. We have touched on Musalia's Mudavadi's father, Moses, and of course the other kingpins who have been there. And we have a new entrant also, other than UDA, who also wants to be a kingpin, not only in the Mulembe Nation, but in Kenya, and that is Mukisa Kitui. And he even left his prestigious job at the United Nations because he also wants a piece of the cake, that is the presidency. Now his entrant. Could have this been his best entrance by supporting perhaps one of the candidates who, or backing one of the candidates that is wants to be elected in Matungu and Kabuchai? Could it have been his entry point? So,
You know, I think it's good you've raised that point, and because from a political strategic position. That would have been the most strategic thing to do as a presidential...
To test the waters there.
Exactly, as a presidential candidate. But then I think that from what I saw even in his when he was launching his presidential bid. I would not expect that, because I think he is still extremely elitist. He is still at the level of the United Nations. He's not yet come down.
Yes, to the ground.
He's not yet come down into the ground.
Yes.
I mean, you could look during his launch. He was taking selfies with us, with a stream of cars following him instead of people. So it tells you that the strategy is not really there. And this would have actually been the best opportunity for him to come out and be, go out and also support one of the independent candidates and sell himself so that people can see him as a serious presidential contender. Well, because ideally he is starting it, so whether he loses or whether he wins, it's a gain for him. So I think that was a big loss for him in terms of political strategy. But maybe it could have been, maybe he may have been rained on by one of the, as part of the unity call to not to do so. But I don't want to presume that.
And perhaps Muliro, you can touch on that. Do you concur with Churchill, or Muhisa Kitui is playing his cards very close to his chest?
I think maybe the last part that he's observing, as you say, you're very right. He's trying to not to brush open, unravel the feathers. And number two, he's coming into a field with a different, he's branding himself differently. And even when he talked, he said, things have been like this. I think I heard him say, mumemsikia Livondo, watu wa siasa kawaida, and the rest, we want to change this. So he does not want, because he would have easily, there was that rumor that he was behind the coup in Ford, Kenya. They were preparing and saying they are doing this to prepare way for Muhisa Kitui. But I think he's kept off from that.
Yes.
And second, you can remember that Kitui and Musalia Mudavadi are still, they are very close. When Musalia Mudavadi ran for presidency, his chief campaigner legally was Muhisa Kitui, and he delivered in Bungoma more votes than home, where Musalia comes from. So he's trying also to keep the mid, because as I told you, this is the time that the people themselves in Western Mlembe Nation have a destiny that they are seeing, maybe it will make sense. And therefore, if you come in and you want to project yourself as somebody already trying to stir the waters that have been there, then you can easily find yourself in a very dead silo, in a corner. But we can say this, I think, where I may disagree with Churchill is that it is, if I were Kitui, I would do the same. Because if you look at Muhisa Kitui, his bid is, this is a person for the future. If you look at him, the potential for after 2022 is greater than even now. Now maybe it is the idea of he'll do a lot of boardroom, not grassroots. He has come from the top, so he may rely on ideas of boardroom negotiations to sell him at the grassroots. But when you look at his other counterparts in Western, like Musalia Mudavadi, those are people who have infrastructure on the ground with the people. So getting the boardroom discussion is easier. But I think it's okay for him, as he says, to keep off, whether they win or lose. It doesn't in any way.
So as not to appear like a regional king.
Yes. I think he's come with a very good, you're right, that as you said, he's international, but he wants to be now very national, with international touch. So he doesn't want, and I think he even mentioned that when somebody said he doesn't attend funerals, and he said, I don't want to be a funeral hero. I am not running for presidency to be a hero of funerals.
The only challenge, I agree with what he's saying, but the only challenge with that is the reality that exists, especially when it now comes to the real politics. In the ultimate, that might help serve now, but the dynamism of politics might make that not relevant when he thinks it should have been relevant.
And perhaps away from politics, people of Kabuchai and people of Matungu. Basically, let's talk about Western. We have a lot of farming, and especially when you talk about sugar and sugarcane farming. Any leader touching on that is a very sensitive issue, because looking at companies, a lot of companies have drowned in debts and mismanagement. Can that perhaps be an entry point for any leader who wants to tap into the votes of the Western reach?
Okay.
Muriro?
Yeah. Yes or no? But it is yes because of what you have said. Practically, people look at their core economic subsistence way of life, and politicians know how to pick them out. So you look at that and say, for us it is Mira, then you go with it, because that's where commonly people subsist on. So in Western, you can easily, for a long time, that has been the song. And that's why I say yes or no. That you can easily quote the ideas of sugarcane and the rest, then look very great. But no, because that is now a dead, tired song. And also it is dangerous for these key leaders. If you look at Wetangula, you look at Moses, you look at Wycliffe, as Musalia Mudavadi. They may not want that song to come up so much, because people may ask that these are people who have, even Dr. Kitui himself also, these have been ministers in key positions that would have, if historically, the times when those factories were working very well, if they had put in their hand, maybe something would have happened. So it will be a better song for young politicians like Cleophas Malala. They can sell with that. But if you observe very well, the key politicians, and you see they try to miff that idea and say we are solving it. Even you saw how Oparanya did that. It is the deputy president who is using that song to enter Western. And therefore, you as a kingpin of Western, you may not want to use that song of sugarcane. Maybe you may want to use something else. And I've heard even from the sidelines stories such as sugarcane is a slave plantation. We can diversify into other areas. You see that? And it makes sense also, but politically, that should be the idea. Yes.
Do you concur?
And you know, the issue is that sugarcane has caught so many people. It is sort of touching on so many people, especially at the political level. And people have failed to deliver. I mean, look at the Sugar Task Force that was chaired by Okware. So you see, if you didn't deliver on it, then why do you want to promise us that when we bring this candidate, it is going to make sugar industry to? So it is a hot issue that no politician might want to touch, especially those who are existing. But I think that it is one thing that really needs to be sought, because the sugar sector really touches on a big part of Western Kenya, and it's not just the Western region, it's Western and Nyanza and even parts of Rift Valley. And I think that for a long time it really solved the economic activities of so many of the populace of those who live around that place. And if there was really proper leadership that was endeavoring to help the people of that region, that would really be the best thing. But I think that it will be too much for a member of parliament to claim that he's vying because he's going to solve the sugar sector. It has not worked.
Historical.
And other, of course, economic activities there. And perhaps, Mulira, let me direct this question to you, Churchill. Of course, talking about UDA. They're just testing their waters. They don't stand a chance. What's your comment on that?
Yeah, it's not easy to just have that dismissive.
Yes, looking at the pattern.
Yes.
That Ford Kenya, ANC, ODM. Ford Kenya, ANC, ODM. Are we likely to see the same pattern, or the entrant of UDA can pull surprises that like they did in Msambweni? Because although the candidate was an independent candidate, he was backed by members of who are allied to UDA. And
for a slight difference is that in Matungu and Kabuchai, they are now clear. It's not like hiding behind an independent candidate. There are some things that come with being an independent candidate, you know, neutrality, you're not attached, although people are behind you, so less controversial. So there are some undecided people who can easily say, we go for this independent person. But now they are in the field. They are now in the mud. Clearly it is UDA. And the perception is, you could see the weight that Musalia Mudavadi brought in. So it looked like I have these people behind me to face this man called the deputy president. And that is why he has brought his parties here, beginning with Kabuchai, where UDA appears to be now, you know, a bit stronger than in the Matungu. Matungu, it is ODM that is neck to neck with the ANC leading. So he comes, and the idea is that people, Kabuchai, look at that in terms of what is our national stake. And they have been harping that. I saw the last speech with Tangula telling them, this is a measure of Mlembe unity. Kabuchai,
yes,
the way you will vote.
Yes.
And Musalia was talking about, it is from here that we have, it is not just, you are not just voting down here.
Yes.
It is about the big seat on the hill. And people listen, people, you know, understand that, and they know that the biggest opponent of our candidate is William Ruto. Because if it was an independent person, it would have been better. Or maybe if it was clearly Jubilee, because there are those traces. Jubilee, you can say now this is the president also bringing his person and that. But this is clearly a wing bringing their person. And you know the president is not running. But this is a straight opponent of your person at the national level. So I'm seeing, I cannot say with finality, but I'm seeing two things about UDA. That one, they may not get any of the seats there. And as you mentioned, number two, the idea is let people know. You know, you're not just testing the waters. You are actually campaigning for them. They are not campaigning for this seat.
Yes.
The way I look at them, the way it is happening is they are campaigning for 2022. They have now a forum to introduce their party to the people and know whether it holds roots, and therefore do even recruitment as they are campaigning, supplying their This is the only time they are finding that opportunity where they can do that. And I think even like in Matungu, I don't know. Some I've heard on the ground that because of the difficult, very close move, maybe a third person might easily come in. But in my view, the candidate himself they needed to settle on if they had taken, because they wanted the ANC candidate. I think they were the first ones. But this person was heavily convinced by ANC leaders, and also the fact that Musalia Mudavadi has emerged actually as the Western leader. So you have more future hiding under the umbrella of ANC than, and you know, he was number 2 running on Ford Kenya. So when Ford Kenya said it's supporting ANC, he was almost going to the other side of UDA. They know how to pick candidates, but the reality on the ground made him go for ANC, and that means that seat is for ANC to keep.
Yeah, but do they have really an impact there, Churchill? Will they make a clear intention that we are here to stay?
For me, I think that the intention to popularize the party is going to work in terms of impact. The other thing is that they might also achieve in terms of, if you know, one of their very strong political strategy has been the oiling strategy, which somehow really worked perfectly in Msambweni. And that can actually work if to get them have more votes, just to show a statement. I mean, if they come third, that will be a very strong statement for the party. So if they put their strategy in terms of you know, the oiling the public or oiling the voters, they'll actually get you know when you do the comparison, and I like what my colleague has said. In Msambweni, the independent candidate who won was actually somebody who was sort of had a problem with ODM. And so they went very fast and grabbed him. So the guy was not coming as a non-starter. He was already very popular.
Yes.
So the only thing
they rode on that.
Exactly. So the only thing was to convince him that, you know what, don't vote for that party, vote for this guy. And it is very good that the ANC was able to counter that in Matungu.
Yes.
Because it would also have had a strong impact. Remember, some of these candidates, apart from the fact that they are riding they are riding behind kingpins and they are riding behind the political parties, they also have their own support base that is drawn from their own clans, that is behind them.
Yes.
So that one we cannot also overshadow. So I think that in terms of making a statement as a national political party that is up for grabs in any part of the country, UDA is going to make that statement. But then in terms of the winning election, that one I can be very sure. And you can call me back into this studio.
I might pull a surprise like I did in somewhere. Anyway, gentlemen, we continue with this conversation. I see Weldon Kirui, you're following live. Maina Wanyeri, you're watching from Nyeri. Thank you so much. Collins Kepkemoi Kirui, watching from Kericho Litain. Maina Timothy Makweba, watching from Lodwar Town. Remember, we are live on Facebook, on YouTube, on also our KBC app, and live from the broadcasting house here in the county of Nairobi. We're taking another short, quick break. We'll be right back.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
I've taken an oath to destroy the enemies of Magad Father, regardless of where they are hiding. I will hunt them down. I will go to any extent to protect my motherland. I will not hesitate and step back.
Go, Ashok. Could they put an end to this war between justice and injustice?
On the next episode,
tumeshuhudia visa vingi vya watu kupata mimba bila kutarajia. Maambukizi ya ukimwi pia yameongezeka.
Tupo nchini Uganda ambapo pikipiki zinaleta afueni kubwa katika kuimarisha afya ya uzazi. Ni vipi watoto wanaweza kuhamasishwa kuhusu janga la kiafya? Tutakuelezea athari za afya na maisha unapomaliza muda mwingi kwa kuketi chini. Tunakutana na daktari bingwa wa magonjwa ya kuambukiza anayewapa tabasamu wagonjwa wa corona Kenya.
On the next episode of
Saida. Takuficha wapi sasa?
Saida, fungua. Yaani Saida hufungui?
Mume wangu, pana subra.
Dawa wote hasemi chochote?
Hasemi chochote, kazi yake tu kutafuta tu.
Huku ya hema kama lori.
Huku ya hema kabisa, nakwambia. Leo mpaka kanywa maji.
Kwani rafiki yangu? Kwani leo ulikuwa mficho wapi wewe? Ulikuwa mficho wapi wewe?
Wewe vipi mume wangu? Ha!
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And the drama begins.
Like, what the hell did you put my stock?
Ding dong. I need a lawyer.
You stupid monkey. I want my clothes back.
Oh, just shut up.
Sarah, where have you been?
In the sky, of course, sitting on the moon. Or what do you think?
Too bad you've got me, so make the best of it.
Shapu kishafua na supu ya nyama.
Hiyo ni yete.
Kamene?
Cassandra.
Palanta guidance. Omera, shut up.
That was my time, Farah Hersi.
Welcome back. This is News Check, and we are looking at the Kabuchai and Matungu by-elections scheduled for tomorrow, where we expect over 63,000 and 56,000 voters respectively to cast their ballot and elect their new legislator. And I'm joined by Churchill Saoke, who is governance expert, and also we have a political analyst by the name Wilfred Muliro. And before the break, or during the break, we were talking about the financial muscle. Looking at the two constituencies, we've seen a lot of exchanging of power in terms of financial stability. And UDA has also come out strongly in the same. Is it likely to play a big role in tomorrow's election, Muliro?
Yes. I think that is something we had overlooked, I think, in the earlier discussions. If you look at Kabuchai, then that's when you see that unless the handshake weighs in, but in Kabuchai, if Ford Kenya is left on its own, then the UDA is banking on what my friend calls oiling, or, you know, they say, I've heard it in Western, they are using the word humina sindu, you know, press something. And that's being used as a, to press something in your hand. So I think what the lieutenants, if you look at Didmas Barasa, you look at Waluke himself, he was a former MP there when it was larger Sirisia. And you cannot see them in rallies, and they are stuck there, moving. You know, I saw another photo there that Didmas was actually crossing a river somewhere on foot in the forest. So the idea of money, especially at this time of COVID, is going to play a very great role. And then number two, if you look at Matungu may give us a reflection of Sambweni, the role of the county government in using its resources
and actually,
in influencing elections. Initially, John, if you remember, we used to, we used to have that discussion that the national government, is using its resources. But now it is devolved. And the challenge is that the county governments. Muvuria did his work in Sambweni, my friend. And
perhaps we can...
Oparanya is doing it now.
It's a good thing that you've mentioned it, and you were not here when we were watching ANC leader talking about that. But, of course, we will be getting back to that. But for now, let's cross over to Mombasa, where Michael Mwadiga is on standby with the PS Ministry of Tourism, Safina Kwekwe, rather.
From the decision of the person in charge, the equivalent of the commissioner in any other areas where there's a tribunal administering that dealing or hearing those disputes, there's a structured process from the person, like say the commissioner.
That we are experiencing a technical hitch, but as soon as we rectify that, we'll be getting back to Michael Mwadiga. He is with the PS for Tourism, Safina Kwekwe, and it's during the World Wildlife Day celebration and the launch of the Economic Stimulus Program. But back to our discussion, Muliro, you're talking about the oiling, the oiling of the machine, the political machines there in Western. How is it likely to play out in these two by-elections tomorrow?
Yeah, the role of the county government. Remember, a few days ago, Cleophas Malala with a few people were addressing the press, saying they have captured a pickup with the fertilizer labeled, not for sale, but with the emblem of the county government being supplied to areas that are thought to be ODM strongholds. And we cannot overlook the fact that the governor of Kakamega, on the ground, people perceive and believe, and even you can see it, that he has done a lot that makes him very influential in matters of public affairs. And therefore, you can see that he has around two things he's trying to do. Proving to the party leader. Remember, he's one of the debut party leaders of ODM. And he's proving to him that maybe for him he can deliver more than the others. Maybe Joho did not deliver. And then the second one is he's playing his role as a person who is going to checkmate Honorable Musalia Mudavadi on behalf of Raila Odinga. That's the reality there. What my friend was talking about, that the Luhya unity always is laced with external actors, interests of external actors. So he's doing that, and if he wins, if ODM wins Matungu, I can for sure tell you, Ben, that it will be an extreme dark funeral for Musalia Mudavadi.
Okay, let's first of all cross over to Mombasa. Remember, we are celebrating, or the world is celebrating, World Wildlife Day, and Michael Mwadiga is on standby now with PS Tourism, Safina Kwekwe. Mwadiga, over to you.
Good morning to you, Bentro Njue, coming to you live from Kisite Mpungute Marine Park. It is in Shimoni at Kwale County. Today is the World Wildlife Day, the year 2021. The theme is forestry and livelihood. The United Nations is trying to show the significance or highlight the significance of forestry forestry and giving livelihood to communities, especially the indigenous and the local communities. And today is being celebrated here in Kwale County. Of course, government officials are here. We have the CAS in wildlife, former IG, that is Joseph Boynet, together with the PS in tourism. Of course, they'll be joining me to tell us more about this event, or today's event, and why it's being celebrated here in Kwale County. Of course, it is just some few hours ago when the nation received the COVID-19 vaccine. Of course, you know that wildlife had been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, and of course they'll be telling us also what is the significance of the arrival of this COVID-19 vaccine with regard to tourism. And I'll be joined by the CAS who is just near us here, of course, to give us the details and why they have decided to celebrate it here in Kwale County. Just a while they'll be giving us details on what is happening here in Kwale.
Been able to do in collaboration with other national security agencies, alongside and working alongside our own people. Because, as you know very well, that we have decided as a people in this country that we will conserve our wildlife. And the anchor agency to support us in that endeavor is KWS. So with KWS taking the lead, supported by the other national security agencies, supported by other national government departments, supported by the county governments, and supported by the people of this country, we have therefore managed to bring wildlife poaching, whether it is elephant. And as a matter of fact, even last year we had zero poaching on rhinos, to those significant loss. So it is actually commendation on the part of all of us that we have registered those successes.
We have issues of fines, and we just want to know what fines KDF instituted for anyone convicted of wildlife poaching.
Say again?
Fines that are instituted for anyone doing poaching, found doing poaching. The fines.
What's wrong with the fines?
How much? What are the fines? What are the fines? The fines that KWS has...
No, the KWS does not institute any fines. It is a law that has been passed in Parliament, and that law was passed by our MPs on the behalf of the Kenyan people, because we took a decision collectively that we will conserve our wildlife. And that's why if you engage in poaching, there are significant penalties that you will attract. Okay. But I think it is important also to mention one fact that it's not only KWS that acting on its own that has registered those successes. We also thank the operators of private conservancies, owners of private land, who have on their own volition allowed their private property to be used as a wildlife habitat. So we thank them as well, because they have worked with us and they have worked with the entirety of the Kenyan people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Excuse me, sir.
Yes, that is CAS Tourism, Joseph Boynet. They're talking about the successes in wildlife conservation, including war on poaching, and also remember that tourism is one of the worst affected sector by the COVID-19 pandemic. Hotels have closed, and of course it's recovering as we go on. And indeed, in case you joined us, this is News Check, and we are looking at the upcoming by-elections tomorrow, and especially in Kabuchai and Matungu. We have two gentlemen here who are helping me unpack that. And gentlemen, we need to pick up the pace now. What do we expect tomorrow, and what does it mean for BBI, the results? Churchill.
Well, in terms of the BBI, I think that it's a little bit of a different ballgame, because many of these leaders are pro the BBI process, and so it might be difficult for us to attribute the results of the election as to whether the people are for the BBI or not. But we will just have to attribute them to either political inclination or loyalty to the political parties or to the specific political personalities, as is now. Of course, after the election, some of the politicians, as we had said, that there are those who are into this race not necessarily to win, like a number of the independent candidates. They are into the election to show that they want to be in the ballot in 2022. So this is what you call the dress rehearsal. Yes. So if they use these campaigns to show the national leaders or whatever that, you know, we also have political interest, then even in terms of their engagement in the BBI, their names will come out and they are able to sell themselves out. But then the relationship between BBI and these elections, no.
Perhaps, Moliru, you can comment on that, the expectations, and especially for the big parties, and what should we expect tomorrow?
Yeah, first, I agree to some level that most of those running for these positions are pro-BBI, except we can say UDA. And we can see, that's what I mentioned earlier, you may be right, just slightly from what Churchill has said. There are direct links to BBI in the results of this election, in particular where there is UDA. Yes. And when you see the candidate of Ford Kenya, and you saw all of them from Musalia Mudavadi, Gideon Moi going there, and most probably with the blessings of the president, and that's why even the counties in such areas passed the idea of BBI, then you'll see that even the speeches of the proponents of UDA when they are there, some of the issues they have been touching on is that this is not the time for BBI, we want to. So in case, especially in Kabuchai, if UDA wins, then there is a tempo that you see people are not interested in that handshake. Because BBI is actually also bringing an alliance, reminiscence of NASA, CORD, or even Jubilee, apart from what they are telling us is to do with the amendment of the Constitution. So that's the one team which may easily be labeled as BBI. Maybe they call them dynasty. Then another one, even if the deputy president has refused, the UDA is anti-BBI, a hustler on the other side. So Kabuchai, where they have a candidate, and even, yes, they have a candidate also in Matungu, may have that indication. But tomorrow, what we expect is there'll be, even tonight, there'll be a lot of electoral malpractices in terms of violence in places like Kabuchai, and in terms of bribery and use of resources in Matungu. And we are going to see a lot of complaints, just like even London Ward and Hellsgate. But at the end of the day, I'm seeing that the side, as you have already labeled them, I think that's the label that should go.
Yes.
The anti-BBI and BBI side. I'm seeing that this is a by-election, so the side that is for BBI will eventually win tomorrow.
And the big political parties we've seen ANC, we've seen Ford Kenya and ODM, they're actually, will that determine their next step?
It will, especially for now the emerging leader of Western ANC. And you can see that around support Musalia Mudavadi, because the ANC is ANC only needs now to make inroads in smaller parts of Bungoma, where it is already there, and then Trans Nzoia. So if the biggest threat to ANC in Western is ODM, it's not even, I think, UDA or the other. So we are seeing clearly a very complex aspect, which my brother Churchill had mentioned, but now it's very complex in Matungu in the sense that both are BBI, but both are now ODM, Raila Odinga and Musalia Mudavadi are coming head to head because they are looking at 2022. So we don't know where in that matrix, and you are right, I can predict that. Why it is very difficult to call it in Matungu. In that matrix, you may not place the heavy hand of the national government. Because I think maybe the President Uhuru would wish to be neutral in Matungu. But in Kabuchai, it's easier for the national government to take a position and support Wetangula's candidate. So that is the matrix of the parties in Western. So people have been, I think just to conclude this, the song in Matungu has been that for a long time, and you've heard that. And actually even the friction between Raila Odinga and Musalia Mudavadi was that for a long time, you have used us, and we have not seen that. We have supported you. Now we have our own. Please support. And now they are head to head there. So the results will also affect Raila Odinga. He'll not get there out happily if he loses, because it will mean that he no longer holds Western Kenya as he used to hold it strongly. Yes.
Final words, Churchill.
Well, I think that as the elections come, of course, tomorrow, the play of the political parties we are yet to see. The results will have a huge impact on the discussion around the kingship of Western Kenya. And I think that is why this election is really at stake on some of the big guys. So we are yet to see how this is going to go. We're also going to see what the conversation around UDA in terms of what the results will bring, what will be the conversation that they'll be able to drive. But I think that in terms of prediction and what we hope is that there shouldn't be violence. I think that is what we should hope for. And I think that already, as we can see, there are prospects. But I think the institutions, as we had said initially when we were starting up, the institutions that manage elections should ensure that every person who wants to go vote should go vote and come back to the house and wait for their results. And instead of them being harmed or violence or causing businesses to be stalled or something of that sort. So that's my hope, that there will be peace, and that the wishes of the people of Matungu and the people of Kabuchai will be captured in terms of whom they will be elected.
Indeed, thank you so much, and I will echo your words. Let's hope that democracy and the people win tomorrow when the ballot day is due. And remember, Huruma Ward in Uasin Gishu, Hell's Gate and London Ward in Nakuru, Kiamokama Ward in Kisii, and Kitise Kithuku Ward in Makueni will also be headed to the ballot starting tomorrow. And of course, we will be keeping tabs to know exactly what has happened. This has been News Check. Thank you so much for watching. I have been with a very formidable tag team here of Churchill Saoke and Wilfred Moriro, who are political analysts and the governance experts. Thank you so much for watching. I'm handing over the baton to Tamrini so that we may continue the conversation on social media and also right here on with Kiswahili. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Njue. Lensa Odingo has been our sign language interpreter for this Morning Still.
Fanya hivi, wewe teremuka tu chini. Hata watu wanangojea, unasema unione. Si ninakuona ndio huyu kucha. Kucha ninakuona. Nimekuita mara ngapi Kate? This is the Nissan Note.
Hii ndio motoka.
Not that this is the Nissan Note we are giving out.
Na ni rahisi sana kuwekelea bid. Unaenda kwenye lipa na M-Pesa. Unaweka paybill number 4032353. Kisha unakelea account number ya Nissan Note ni Note, N-O-T-E. Namba ambayo unapenda, labda unapenda 100, labda unapenda 200. Wekelea Note 100, Note 200. Alafu tutakuitisha shilingi 40 peke yake, 40 bob only. Weka pin yako, utakuwa umekelea bid ya hii Nissan Note. Inakungoja wewe mahali popote ulipo. Mimi na mtumishi tutakupea.
Ili kupata skiza tune hii kwa simu yako, bonyeza alama ya nyota 811 alama ya nyota 962 alama ya reli.
Unanipigia na reverse call. Unajua ile kitu naweza reverse peke yake. Ni Land Rover nikiendea mawalifu mahali wako. Ndio wakuja wameingia kwa Land Rover chup chup. Lakini wewe kunipigia reverse call. Why are you defrauding the government? No. Look for the airtime and call me. Okay? Ukipiga na reverse call, hata mimi sita reverse. Unasikia? Tusisoyane bwana.
Ukitaka kupata skiza tune hii, bonyeza alama ya nyota 811 alama ya nyota 962 alama ya reli. Nyota 811 alama ya nyota 962 alama ya reli.
On the next episode of
Saida.
Takuficha wapi sasa?
Saida fungua. Yaani Saida hufungui?
Mume wangu, pana subra.
Dawa wote hasemi chochote?
Hasemi chochote, kazi yake tu kutafuta tu.
Huku ya hema kama lori.
Huku ya hema kabisa nakwambia, leo mpaka kanywa maji.
Kwani rafiki yangu? Kwani leo ulikuwa mficho wapi wewe? Ulikuwa mficho wapi wewe?
Wewe vipi mume wangu?
On the next episode.
Juhudi za Rais Uhuru Kenyatta za kulinda na kuimarisha maslahi ya Wakenya kwa kuangazia uhalifu wa kila aina ikiwemo ufisadi ni muhimu katika maendeleo ya taifa hili. Wiki hii kwenye Project 254.
We cannot be a country anymore where those who work hard are robbed of their profit by those who are too lazy to invest and produce.
Ofisi ya ODPP imekuwa ni mojawapo ya zile taasisi Kenya ambazo zinashughulika na masuala ya kisheria.
Rais ajue lolote afanyalo kupiga ufisadi kwa haki na ukweli, ana uungwaji wa mkono wa Kenya.
Next on.
SMS zimejaa hapa kutoka juu mpaka chini, hakuna maandiko.
Nikuulize papi.
Hiyo simu acha nikwambie nitavunja.
Utavunja?
Nimeboeka sana bana.
Tafadhali kuachana na hiyo simu kwanza.
Ngoja kidogo kwa
Papa simu sasa.
Utangoja nimalize simu yangu ama nikuhudumie? Kuna hospitali jirani huko unaweza enda. Na wewe umetoka kula takataka unakuja kuniletea hapa.
Unajua? Saturday haiandikangi hivyo.
Ni nini wewe? Kwani unasoma message zangu?
Uniungwana kweli? Nauliza tabia kama hizo, hasa nyinyi wadaku wa kuangalia simu za watu na kusikiliza maneno ya watu wanavyozungumza kwa simu, ni ungwana?
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Ashanti Kotoko.
I don't wanna be lonely tonight.
We're the survivors. It's how you interpret. Cause the belly of the beast not too far off from what's on the surface.
He goes through the drills with ease and skills, eager to pass on his vast experience to the aspiring players in their quest to become greater players. And where else would they get all that than from the wizard himself? The legendary Waisale Koisolomani Serevi from Fiji, who visited Kenya for the second time with the Russian sides for the 2019 Safari Sevens.
I've seen that Russian players have the strength. They are strong players, they are fast, and they have the heart to play rugby. And the only assessment I've seen so far is in sevens rugby, the thing that I need to work more on is decision making, trying to create space. In sevens now, a lot of coaches are saying, go for the space, go for the space. There's no more space. You need to create your own space, create the space for the players to go through. That is what I'm doing a lot. Decision making in attack and in defense, and trying to get a pattern, attack pattern for them and a good defensive pattern for them. And that is what my assessment.
Born in 1968, Serevi missed a match that made headlines in Fiji, but vowed to find his way into those headlines one day.
I was 9 years old, like these kids here. I was washing my school uniform in 1997. In Fiji, at home, we don't have washing machine. And we have a board and a soap, and you can do soap with water and then you brush. I was washing my school uniform, 1977. I was like 9 years old. And then I heard people like shouting. All the people, and I asked my mom and dad, why are these people shouting and happy? And my mom and dad said, oh, Fiji has just beaten the British Lions in Fiji. And I always tell this story to the chairman of the World Rugby, Mr. Bill Beaumont. And I thought to my mind, oh, maybe rugby makes people happy. I want to play rugby and make people happy. So that is why, what inspired me.
Registration, cops patrolling, now they don't stop me, and I get after, they won't let me.
And it came to pass years later when he wore the Fijian colors with pride to become an exceptional player who excelled at both the 7s and 15s to feature in 4 Rugby World Cup 7s, where Fiji won the 1997 and 2005 editions with Vaisale, the player of the tournament. He is also the top point scorer with 297.
The highlight was winning the World Cup in 1997 for Fiji and 2005 because coming out of receiving the World Cup. And I love 2005 because my son was there at the ground because that was the best one, and we were like all senior players, old players. We were not playing HSBC series, but we took part. We took part in selecting the team that year. And then after the last day of we were going to the finals, and I told my son, he was 5 years old, and I said, I will win the World Cup today, and I'll run. And I'll take you and we go and take the cup. And my son was like, I don't know whether he understands what I say. He was 5 years old. And then as soon as we won the World Cup, that was the highlight of won the World Cup. I had a prayer on the ground and I ran to where he was and jumped off the fence, carried him. And then he was the one holding the World Cup when we win the World Cup in 2005. That was the highlight of my rugby career.
He's also graced 3 Commonwealth Games where they won silver and bronze, and not forgetting the RB Sevens World Series where he guided Fiji to their first win in the 2005 and 2006 season to break the New Zealand stronghold, and the first team to do so before Fiji's other triumphs in 2014-15, 2015-16 and 2018-19.
I ended up playing 21 years of international rugby, played in 7 Rugby World Cups, and won 2 World Cup 7s for Fiji in 97 and 2005. And I believe I have achieved my goal of making people, not only people in Fiji happy, but people all over the world. When I go to places, they always talk about, oh, we always follow you. And for me, it's like I've made people happy, not only in Fiji, but all over the world.
His stunning contribution to the shorter version of the game, where he amassed 1,310 points in the all-time list of the World Series, among other achievements in the 15s, where he garnered 376 points in his international appearances for Fiji, saw him inducted in the IRB Hall of Fame, the first Fijian to achieve such a feat.
Before I went to my first rugby tour in
Na mtazamaji, ni siku ya Jumatano tarehe 3 mwezi Machi mwaka 2021. Matumaini yangu ni kwamba popote pale ulipo umzima. Karibu sana kwenye Tamrini ya Channel 1 ambapo tunazidi tu kufuatilia taarifa mbalimbali humu nchini na bila shaka kukujuza yote ambayo yanajiri hususan katika ulingo wa siasa. Kumbuka ya kwamba kampeni katika maeneo bunge ya Kabuchai na vilevile Matungu zilikamilika rasmi siku ya Jumatatu, kumaanisha ya kwamba hapo kesho watakuwa wanaelekea debeni kuwachagua wawakilishi wao katika uchaguzi huo. Ni kinyang'anyiro ambacho bila shaka kimechacha, na hivyo basi tutakuwa tunazidi kuchanganua na kuangalia, je, ni yapi ambayo tutarajie, tuangalie tuone yapi ambayo ni mapya katika maeneo hayo. Kumbuka ya kwamba sasa hivi vyama mbalimbali vinajaribu kupimana nguvu kabla ya uchaguzi mkuu wa mwaka 2022, na hivyo basi tutakuwa tunazungumzia hayo. Nitakuwa nazungumza naye Edwin Kegoli ambaye ni mchanganuzi wa masuala ya kisiasa. Bila shaka tutakuwa tunaangazia hayo yote mtazamaji, na vilevile kuangalia jinsi mambo yalivyo kuhusiana na ripoti ya BBI. Kumbuka ya kwamba mswada huu ulipitishwa na zaidi ya mabunge 43, na hivyo basi kumaanisha ya kwamba tunajiandaa kwa ile kura ya maamuzi. Na hivyo basi mtazamaji, hayo yote ni hapa kwenye Tamrini ya Channel 1. Bila shaka naitwa Nancy Okware na mfasiri wa lugha ishara. Bila shaka atakuwa nasi hadi tamati. Kumbuka ya kwamba kwenye mitandao ya kijamii. Kwenye Twitter utatupata @KBC Channel 1, @Nancy Okware, na vile taarifa hizi mtazamaji zinapeperushwa moja kwa moja kupitia kwenye mtandao wetu wa Facebook @KBC Channel 1 News. Na basi moja kwa moja mtazamaji, tukianza, karibu sana Bwana Edwin Kegoli kwenye studio zetu leo hii. Bila shaka kunao mengi ambayo yamekuwa kijiri katika ulingo wa kisiasa wiki hii, wiki iliyopita, na ningependa kwanza kabisa tuanze kwa kuzungumza kuhusiana na uchaguzi. Chaguzi ndogo ambazo zinatarajiwa pale kesho. Ni chaguzi kadha wa kadha, lakini ningependa tuzungumze kuhusiana na maeneo bunge ya Matungu na kule katika eneo bunge la Kabuchai. Pengine katika chaguzi ndogo zile tutarajie nini hapo kesho?
Asante sana Nancy, nimshukuru Mwenyezi Mungu kwa ajili ya fursa ya kuwa pamoja nanyi katika kipindi hiki cha Tamrini. Na moja kwa moja ni swala ambalo tunaliangazia kwa kina na tunaendelea kulifuatia, na ili swala la Kabuchai na Matungu. Ni kweli chaguzi ndogo ambazo kuwa zimeshika moto sana, na tumeona wagombea huru na wagombea ambao wana vyama wakiweza kujitokeza na kuweza kunadi sera zao kwa wananchi ili wapate fursa ya kuweza kukamilisha muhula wa bunge ambao walitoweka. Na katika chaguzi hizi ndogo tumeona ubabe wa kisiasa ukidhihirika. Tumeona kinara wa ANC Musalia Mudavadi akikuja na vigogo wengine kama Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka. Tumeona akileta Gideon Moi. Tumemwona akileta viongozi wengine wa chama cha ANC pia kuweza kuweka uzito katika candidate ya ANC candidate pale Matungu. Na umeona kwamba Nancy, kumekuwa na wachanganuzi wa siasa wamekuwa kiita sibling support than rivalry ikidhihirika katika eneo bunge hizi mbili. Na kwa mara ya kwanza unaona kwamba ANC na Ford Kenya wameweza kugawana viti hivi. Wamesema Ford Kenya ilipoteza kiti cha Kabuchai, so tutawasaidia muweze kuretain kiti chenu. ANC walipoteza kiti cha Matungu, Ford Kenya wanasema sisi hatutawaleta candidate, tutaweza kuwa support. Na wanadhihirisha kitu ambacho kwa wakati mwingi watu wamekuwa tilia shaka, kitu ambacho ni cha the Luya unity. So wanasema tunataka tudhihirishe ya kwamba sisi kama Waluya tunaweza kubaliana na kwamba kusikue na rivalry yoyote, tuweze kusaidiana. So ni Ford Kenya retain kiti chao cha Kabuchai na Matungu ANC iweze kuretain. But then again tumeona hiki chama kipya ambacho ni cha Wilbaro, hiki chama cha UDA ambacho kinakisiwa kuungwa mkono na naibu rais William Ruto. Pia kikiweka candidate wake, na pia tumeona ODM wakiweka candidate wao, na itakuwa chaguzi ya kata na shoka Nancy, kwa sababu unaona ODM wako, UDA iko, Ford Kenya wako, ANC wako. So after all is said and done, ni wananchi wa Kabuchai na Matungu ambao sasa wataenda katika debe kuweza kusema kwamba tumefurahisha na sera za huyu kiongozi, tunaenda kumpatia kura. Na pia umeona Nancy ya kwamba kumekuwa na independent candidate ambao pia wamejitokeza katika ulingo huu wa siasa kuweza kugombania kiti hiki, na ni wananchi wa constituency hizi mbili ambao watakuwa na the final word ya kwamba nao after hawa watu wote wamenadi sera zao, tunaona kwamba huyu anaweza kutusaidia ama kukamilisha muhula ambao umebakia. Na kumbuke Nancy ya kwamba tunakaribia chaguzi wa 2022. So I think itakuwa na ashiria ama inaashiria mahali ambapo tunaenda kama 2022. Umeona hata katika eneo bunge like ward ya pale Nakuru, UDA wanasema kwamba hawa watakuwa our firstborn babies katika hii chama chetu. Pia hawa wanataka wadhihirishe ubabe ya kwamba hiki ni chama ambacho kinakuja. So ni chaguzi za kuvutia hisia, na pia like zina attract interest sana.
Ningependa tuzungumze kuhusiana na miungano ya vyama ambayo imeshuhudiwa katika chaguzi ndogo za hivi majuzi, ambapo unaona ya kwamba ikiwa chama fulani kama ulivyosema ni undugu ambao unadhihirishwa pale, pengine unapata ya kwamba Jubilee imeunga mkono yule ambaye anawania kupitia ODM. Sasa hivi tunaona ya kwamba Ford Kenya imeshirikiana na ANC. Ni nguvu ipi ambayo inaletwa katika kuungana kwa vyama vile, ama hakutakuwa na tofauti kubwa? Manake unapoangalia wale wapinzani wengine ambao wako pale ANC, ODM, kunradhi, ODM na UDA, kumaanisha ya kwamba kuna upinzani mkali. Je, vile vyama kuungana katika maeneo yale kuna tofauti ambayo zinaleta ama nguvu mpya?
Ndio, kuna nguvu mpya ambayo inadhihirika kwa sababu kwa mara ya kwanza wale wanaunga mkono chama cha ANC Kabuchai hawatakuwa wanapigia mbunge wa ANC, watakuwa na support mbunge wa Ford Kenya, chama cha Moses Wetangula. Na wa supporters wa Moses Wetangula pia nao katika eneo bunge la la Matungu watakuwa wanaunga mkono mgombea wa ANC. So unaona kwamba hii ni makeshift weight ambayo itakuwa inaleta swala la kuzingatia, kwa sababu unajua wakati ambapo nguvu zimekuwa channeled in one direction zinakuwa na uzito zaidi kuliko ANC kupiga huku, Ford Kenya kupiga huku. Na kile wanajaribu kudhihirisha ni kwamba wanaweza kung'oa uungwaji mkono wa ODM katika eneo bunge la katika maeneo bunge haya, ili Western Kenya irudie ule mkondo wa Western. Ndio kusiwe na like mgawanyiko wa kisiasa katika eneo hili la Western Kenya. Na ndiposa unaona kwamba Musalia Mudavadi na Moses Wetangula wana resolve ya kwamba now moving forward tutakuwa tunashirikiana katika masuala ya siasa. Hakuna mambo ya ubabe tena, hakuna mambo ya mimi niko hapa wewe uko pale. Wanataka waweke wana Western Kenya katika kikapu kimoja ama katika philosophy moja, ili waweze kuweka kura zao ziweze ku make political sense. Kwa sababu nasi ukitazama katika darubini ya kitaifa ya kisiasa, jinsi ambavyo Wakenya upiga kura, eneo bunge la ama eneo la Western Kenya linaonekana kama swing region. So kila mtu anaweza enda kunadi kule sera na akaenda na akatoka na kitu kidogo. But ukienda kwa maeneo mengine tuseme kama Central, Nyanza ama Ukambani, unaweza pata kwamba haya ni maeneo ambayo yako block. So wakipiga kura zao zinaenda mwelekeo mmoja. So na hili swala la Western Unity limekuwa very elusive. Limekuwa likileta mushkil kwa sababu wakati tulimpoteza Michael Kijana Wamalwa, hakukuwa na clear leader ambaye angeweza kuendeleza azma ya Western Kenya ili kuendelea kuwa region ambayo inazungumza kwa lugha moja kisiasa. So tumeona kwamba some politicians Western Kenya wamekuwa na fursa ya kuleta hii jamii pamoja, lakini maybe personal interest zimekuwa zikikuwa kizingiti kikubwa. Ndiposa unaona Western Kenya inaenda huku, inaenda kule. So the giant in Western Kenya cannot be sanctioned kwa sababu hiyo ya segmented politics. But tukiweza kuweka siasa za Western Kenya ziwe kitu kimoja, kama ni Mudavadi tunajua huyu ndio kiongozi wetu, kama ni Wetangula ama kama ni Eugene Wamalwa tunajua huyu ndio kiongozi wetu na tunamfuata na tukisonga mbele katika kushiriki katika masuala ya kitaifa.
Naam, umeibua swala muhimu kuhusiana na umoja wa eneo lile la Western, manake kumekuwa na hilo swala la kuzungumza kuhusiana na ikiwa kuna ule umoja, ikiwa wana ile nguvu ya kutosha, na ningependa tuzungumze kuhusiana na miungano ambayo sasa hivi tumeshuhudia Ford Kenya na ANC katika chaguzi hizi ndogo. Unapoangalia hii miungano, pengine tunapata picha kidogo kuhusiana na hali itakavyokuwa mwaka 2022 ama kwa sasa hivi tunachoona ni jambo ambalo litashuhudiwa tu wakati wa uchaguzi huu mdogo, ama ni miungano ambayo pengine tunatarajia kwamba itadumu kwa kiwango fulani katika uchaguzi mkuu?
Swali zuri sana. Na unajua ukitazama kiongozi kama Musalia Mudavadi ameweka ile notion ya si kiongozi mbinafsi. Ni kiongozi ambaye anaweza enda katika meza na viongozi wengine akalegeza msimamo wake akasema wacha tumuunge mkono huyu, na hii imedhihirika katika kwa masuala mengi. Umeona kwamba wakati walienda kwa nomination ya ODM in 2000 in the run up to 2007 elections, aliweza kumuunga Raila Odinga mkono. Umeona in 2017 akaweza kuweka azma yake ya kuwania kiti cha urais na kuweza kumuunga Raila Odinga mkono. Tumeona pia ni kiongozi ambaye ana utu na ana that sense of togetherness, ya kwamba tukiwa pamoja tuweza timiza masuala mengi. Na pia kuna uchanganuzi wa masuala ya siasa wamekuwa kiibua hisia ya kwamba Mudavadi wakati mwingine hufika mahali na anasimama wrongly, ambapo anakosa kuscore political key points. But then again Mudavadi mwenyewe anasema yeye anapenda siasa za ustaarabu. Najua siasa za ustaarabu pia zina mambo yake. Maybe inaweza mfanya asishiriki mambo kadha wa kadha ambayo watu wanaweza sema hakufanya hivi kwa nini. But then again katika kusonga hadi 2022. Nanasi, umeona kwamba kumekuwa na Gideon Moi ambaye inakisiwa huenda akawa katika kinyang'anyiro. Tumemwona Kalonzo Musyoka ambaye anasema kwa nini sasa nisisimame mimi mwenyewe saa hii? Nimekuwa nikiunga Raila Odinga mkono 2013 na 2017, so kwa nini siwe wakati wangu saa hii? Na pia tumeona Musalia Mudavadi akijitokeza waziwazi pia akitaka katika kuwania kiti cha urais. Na Moses Wetangula pia, ingawa hajakuja waziwazi, lakini anakisiwa kuwa huwa pia akaweza kuweka nia yake ya kuwania kiti hiki. But then again, kwa sababu wote wakirun for presidency, wote hawawezi shinda hicho kiti. Hicho kiti ni kimoja tu. Na wakati mwingine inafaa ya kwamba wakati mnaona sisi sote tukienda separately hatutafaulu, inafaa weka coalition so that mnakuwa na nguvu zaidi. Ndiposa Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta na Mheshimiwa William Ruto walipokuja pamoja 2013 na kuweza kuweka nguvu zao, na ikakuwa inasemekana maji haezi panda mlima, lakini maji yenyewe finally yalipanda mlima na wakaweza kuungana. So wakati huu Musalia Mudavadi kitu ambacho anafanya ni kuconsolidate base yake ikuwe chini yake. And then wakienda kuongea kama na Gideon, waulize Gideon, wewe unaleta nini? Kwa sababu politics is about the numbers. Kama we ni Gideon, unaleta ngapi? Rift Valley una handle aje mambo ya DP Ruto katika Rift Valley? Kwa sababu inasemekana Ruto ndiye kiongozi, undisputed leader wa Rift Valley region. And because also inasemekana kwamba pia anaungwa mkono katika maeneo mengi katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. So na Wetangula ulizwe, na wewe unaleta nini? Kalonzo, wewe unaleta nini? Ndio waweke hesabu zao pamoja, waone kama hizi hesabu zina make sense ya coalition. Kama they are making presidential sense, and then wakuje waseme now, kama tunaweza win hiki kiti na maybe tuungwe mkono na Raila Odinga ama Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta aseme pia hawa viongozi ninaweka kwenu mikononi mwa wananchi, nyinyi muweze kuamua, itajulikana. Na kama hesabu zao hazita make political sense, then itabidi pia watafute mtu ambaye ataleta huo uzito ili sasa imake presidential election sense. Kwa sababu si tu kurun for presidency, lazima pia uran na intention ya kuwin. Na wakisema tunataka to win hiki kiti cha rais, then itabidi waanze kujiuliza maswali magumu na mazito ya kwamba tutafanya aje influence ya Raila Odinga katika eneo la magharibi. Kama ni Kalonzo Musyoka, atafanya aje influence yake Ukambani, ambayo sahihi inaonekana kuwa inataka kuwa na mushkil, kwa sababu kuna viongozi kama Alfred Mutua wanaibuka, viongozi kama Profesa Kivuta Kibwana pia wanainuka, wanasema pia wanataka wa control hili eneo. So hayo ndio maswali ambayo watakuwa wanajiuliza wenyewe kwa wenyewe, na wakipata majibu ya kwamba mimi ninaweza kurally hawa viongozi wangu wa Eastern wakuja pamoja, na Mudavadi aseme mimi na Weta na kina Eugene tumeamua ya kwamba kwa mara ya kwanza 2022 tunaenda kupiga kura kama eneo la magharibi na hakuna hii eneo tena kuwa swing vote, then we are making progress. And then kama ni hao watasema nao, kama ni Mudavadi tunamweka mbele, and then watafute a formidable running mate ambaye atashikana naye, kwa sababu tunajua William Ruto is going all the way to the ballot. So na William Ruto, he looks a bit strong, na tutaona kwa sababu mambo mengi yaweza kufanyika katika hii mambo ya siasa.
Naam. Kuhusiana na huu uchaguzi mdogo, ningependa tulinganishe hali ilivyokuwa kule Msambweni na mambo ambayo tunashuhudia sasa hivi katika eneo la Matungu, na hususan tuzungumze kuhusiana na Musalia Mudavadi, nguvu zake na vile shinikizo katika eneo lile la Western Kenya. Uchaguzi huu una maana gani kwa azma yake pengine ya kuwa rais katika siku za usoni? Una maana mzito sana, na una maana ya kufocus on, kwa sababu akipoteza kiti kile, then watu watamuuliza maswali. Ikiwa huwezi deliver hiki kiti cha Matungu, then utadeliver aje kiti cha urais? Kwa sababu ni sharti waweze kushinda hizi chaguzi. Na ikiwa chama cha UDA kinaweza kuja kikashinda hizi chaguzi, then UDA itakuwa ina send a very strong political message ya kwamba sisi tunakuja na sisi tuko tayari, na watasema tuko na ground. Kwa sababu umeona kile kilifanyika Pwani kule Suleiman Dori, Msambweni kule aliyekuwa mbunge Suleiman Dori. So umeona kwamba Msambweni mambo hayakwenda jinsi ilivyokusudiwa, na tukaona independent candidate akakuja akachukua kiti kile. Na katika chaguzi hizi za Matungu na Kabuchai, ikiwa ODM pia itashinda, kwa sababu
ODM haikuwa na hizo viti, then ODM itasema sisi tuko eneo la magharibi kabisa, tuko kule. Na kama ANC itashinda Matungu na Ford Kenya iweze kushinda Kabuchai, then watasema bas, this is a step in the right direction ambayo tunachukua sasa katika azimio la kuunganisha eneo la magharibi. Na pia wachanganuzi wa siasa wanaweza sema kwamba that the democracy in Western Kenya, jinsi they would like to term it, democracy ya wananchi wa Western Kenya kuweza kuvote kura independently bila like kuangalia mambo ya vyama, and then itakuwa pia imecarry the day just in case tuseme kitu kama an independent candidate atokee from nowhere na aweze kuwin hizi viti. Najua pia itakuwa imesend some political shockwaves that watu wanataka nini. Najua kwa wakati huu watu wanaangalia uwezo wa kiongozi binafsi kuweza kutekeleza azma na riwaza na sera ambazo ananadi kwa wananchi. Kama wananchi wanaweza kutrust that huyu kiongozi anaweza kututoa katika hali hii, kama ni mambo ya youth empowerment, kama ni mambo ya kujenga madarasa, kama ni mambo ya healthcare, kama ni mambo ya hii kuzungumzia bima ya afya ili watu waweze kupata matibabu katika hospitali, then wananchi wakubaliane naye, wanaweza mpatia kura. Na kama an independent candidate anaweza win, and then itasemekana ya kwamba then the ground is shifting. Kama wanaweza kataa kupigia mtu wa ANC ama Ford Kenya kura, ama hata wakatae ODM ama wakatae UDA, and then watu wamebadili mkondo na mambo wanayozingatia katika hii mambo ya kupigia wananchi. Na hiyo Nancy ndio inafaa tuzingatie, kwa sababu tukiweza kupiga kura kwa sababu tumeambiwa tupigie huyu kiongozi na hana uwezo wa kudeliver on the promise and agenda and mandate ambayo inafaa afanye, then tutakuwa tuna make serious mistakes. Kwa sababu ukitazama Nancy jinsi ambavyo nchi iko kwa wakati huu, tunahitaji policies ambazo zitatengeneza turnaround growth and development ya economy, kwa sababu how many young people hawana kazi kwa wakati huu? Watu wangapi wamepoteza kazi? Watu wangapi ambao mishahara yao imekatwa na sasa hawawezi kuishi maisha yao yale ya kawaida? Unajua, wakati ambapo kuna mambo kama hii, when the economy is shrinking, then that means transactions in an economy zinashuka chini. Na wakati ambapo transactions zinashuka, unapata kwamba GDP yetu haiwezi kukua kwa sababu hakuna transactions. Na wakati watu hawana what we call disposable income, and then unapata kwamba retail sales zinashuka chini, na wakati retail sales zinashuka chini, that means business owners will have to make some tough decisions. Lazima sasa waanze kureduce staff, waseme sasa tuna lay off hawa watu zaidi. So unaona, hiyo ni kuleta shida zaidi ya shida. So kile ambacho inafaa tufanye katika, na wasia wangu kwa wananchi wa Matungu na Kabuchai ni hii: pigia kura yule kiongozi ambaye atasaidia katika hii mambo ya kutengeneza uchumi wetu uweze kuboreka. Unaona kwamba tuna public debt imeanza kuleta shida kidogo, kwa sababu unaona it's now way past 60% of our GDP. So viongozi ambao wanaweza enda bunge na kuweza debate na kulegislate miswada ambayo itasaidia katika kumove forward. Alafu pia wapigie viongozi ambao wataenda kupiga msasa mambo vizuri hii ya BBI, kwa sababu sasa inaenda katika bunge la kitaifa, na hapo sasa ndio tunaenda kubaini mbivu mbichi. Itoke National Assembly ikuje Senate, ndio sasa irudi kwa wananchi. So tunataka wabunge pia nao wakuwe makini, wa Kabuchai na Matungu waweze kuelect leaders ambao watakuja na waweze kusaidia kumove agenda ya hii process ya BBI mbele.
Kuna swala lingine ambalo limekuwa likiibuka humu nchini, hasa katika chaguzi ndogo na hususan baada ya kiongozi kufariki. Tuliona ya kwamba katika kaunti ya Makueni alipofariki Mutula Kilonzo, ni kwamba aliyemrithi ni Mutula Kilonzo Junior. Tukaona pia katika eneo la Bomet upande wa Laboso. Na sasa hivi katika eneo hili la Matungu ni kwamba kunaye mjane wa marehemu Murunga ambaye anawania kiti kile, na vilevile mwanawe anayejulikana kama Ambwere. Hebu tuzungumze kuhusiana na hizi siasa za pengine familia kujaribu kurithi, ikiwa mtoa alifariki basi wanajaribu kuwania kile kiti.
Hii culture ya kuweza kuchukua mtu kwa familia kuweza kugombea kiti, I think it comes down to ile watu wanataka. Unajua sisi kama Wakenya tuko very sympathetic people, tuko very emotional people.
No.
So tunaweza sema kwamba mmeona hii familia imepoteza huyu kiongozi, so tupatieni mtu katika hii familia aweze kuendeleza agenda yake. Na unajua ukianza ku appeal kwa emotions za watu, so sometimes inaweza cripple rationality kidogo. Sema anyway, wacha tumpigie tu kura kwa sababu ya jinsi msiba ulivyopata nini. But then again, tunampatia kura akiwa na uwezo wa kutekeleza agenda ama hana uwezo. Na wasia wangu kwa political parties ni hii: wakati mnachukua mtu katika familia ambayo imefiwa ya kiongozi, make sure ya kwamba mtu ambaye anachaguliwa ana uwezo na ari pia ya kuweza kuongoza watu, kwa sababu unaweza ukota tu mtu somewhere just because you feel emotional about this thing and then akose ku deliver on mandate. Unaona? So unaona kama marehemu Mheshimiwa Okoth aliweza kuridhiwa na ndugu yake Imran. Na Imran alikuwa na watu, alikuwa anafanya kazi kwa pamoja sako kwa bako na marehemu Mheshimiwa Ken Okoth, na watu wakampenda zaidi. Na uliona jinsi mambo yalivyoenda katika eneo bunge hilo la Kibra. So kama hawa wananchi wanaweza sema kwamba then mjane akona nafasi na tumemuona anaweza ongoza, tutampatia nafasi, then ni up to those people to decide, kwa sababu sisi yetu tu ni kutoa wasia, yetu tu ni kuwakumbusha kwamba wakati mnapigia kiongozi kura, mnapigia mambo ya masomo, kwa sababu under CDF inashughulikia mambo ya masomo, mambo ya shule, mambo za karo, hizi mambo za make sure kwamba mambo ya empowerment pia young people inaendelea mbele. Unaweza enda pale ukapata mkopo kidogo ya kuanzisha biashara, makundi za vijana na wamama. So hayo ndiyo masuala ambayo yako kwa debe, na mtu ambaye anachaguliwa ili kuweza kuoversee hiyo maneno lazima awe ni mtu ambaye amejitolea. Unajua uongozi ni kujitolea. Ajitolee kuweza kutekeleza agenda hizi in a very selfless manner. Asiende kule akiwa na ari za kibinafsi ambazo tunazijua kama za kisiasa. Unajua politicians wanakuwa na hizi tags mingi. Politician ni mtu mkora, politician ni mtu akienda kule anakula tu, anasahau watu. So tukianza ku shift narrative from a selfish politician to a politician mwenye anajali maslahi na matakwa ya wananchi, then we are making progress as a country. Because nasi utajua ya kwamba African Development Bank ina rank Kenya among the most innovative countries in Africa. Na kama tuna boost kuwa among the best in terms of innovation, creativity, entrepreneurship, then tunaangalia katika nafasi ambayo tunaweza kutap into our young people kuweza kumove the agenda of this country forward. Na kama tuna mambo haya ya kufurahisha, then wakati tunachagua viongozi, tuchukue viongozi ambao wataendeleza agenda yetu so that they maximize on the available opportunities, resources ambazo ziko. Kama serikali inatoa mikopo kwa vijana, then iwe mikopo ya halali, kwa sababu wakati mwingine unaweza pata inasemekana mikopo iko, kumbe mikopo hakuna. Ukienda kule ukipata procedure unaona tu procedure, unaona mimi am already out. So tunaweza ku make sure kwamba kama ni welfare programs, viongozi wanaweza ku negotiate for welfare programs ambazo zitaweza kuinua maisha ya vijana na wamama na kuendeleza maisha yao ya usoni hata ikiwa sasa.
Ningependa tuzungumze kuhusiana na uadilifu wa tume ya uchaguzi ya IEBC. Je, tunapoangalia sasa hivi ni kwamba Wakenya wameanza kupata ile imani na tume hiyo ya IEBC? Manake muda mfupi uliopita ni kwamba kiongozi wa ANC Musalia Mudavadi ametoa tu taarifa kabla ya ule uchaguzi na kusema ya kwamba kuibua madai ya kwamba kunao wale viongozi ama maafisa wa kaunti ya Kakamega ambao wamejihusisha na uchaguzi kule Matungu. Ni madai ambayo anasema ya kwamba bado yanachunguzwa, anataka kwamba IEBC iwe na uadilifu katika kutekeleza shughuli hii. Nikipenda tuzungumze kuhusiana na hili swala la pengine viongozi fulani kutokuwa na imani na IEBC, pengine upande mmoja wa Kenya kutokuwa na imani, athari inaweza kuwa ni ipi katika mfumo mzima wa uchaguzi wa mdogo?
Unajua swala la uchaguzi limekuwa swala ambalo limekuwa likiibua hisia mseto sana, na tuliona 2017, acha turudi 2013, tuliona kwamba wakati Raila Odinga alikuwa kinara wa CORD, ilisemekana kwamba Jubilee waliweza kuinterfere na election na kukakuwa na electoral malpractices, hata wakaenda kotini, lakini mahakama ya upeo ikaweza kutupilia kesi hiyo mbali kwa kukosa ushahidi na kukosa merit. So wakati 2017 ilifika, tuliona kwamba pia madai hayo ya tume ya uchaguzi kukosa kuwa na uadilifu, kukosa kuwa na uaminifu na ukweli na uwazi ilileta shida, na tumeona watu 2017 wakikufa kwa ajili ya police brutality. Maafisa wa polisi wakiweza mishandle ama use excessive force on citizens. Na ukitazama katika taifa la Marekani, wao hawana like a harmonized electoral body. Uchaguzi wao unaishia kwa states kama ni Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Washington. Yale machaguzi yanaishia pale. Hao tu ni kutransmit, kucertify na kutransmit. Unajua tukisema kwamba to decentralize IBC so that kama ni Kabuchai constituency wako na IBC yake, final tally ni pale na wao wata transmit your elections, and then kama ni Matungu na maeneo bunge mengine kama tunaweza decentralize, then itakuwa vigumu pia watu kuweza influence, kwa sababu unajua wakati a commission is centralized, it can be very easy to control your commission on how they do their thing. But then again, when it is like a small unit, si rahisi pia vile kuzunguka the entire country na kutaka kubribe hawa watu wengi. But then again, inakuja katika swala la uongozi. Kama tunaweza pata viongozi ambao wanaweza kuwa waaminifu katika utekelezaji, like IBC ipewe nafasi yake ya kutekeleza uchaguzi ambao ni wa huru na haki, ya kwamba mtu akipoteza uchaguzi anajua nimepoteza uchaguzi kwa misingi ya haki na kwa misingi ya kikatiba, ya kwamba wananchi walifeel ya kwamba maybe sera zangu hazikuwa za kutosheleza kupewa kura kulingana na mpinzani wangu. Isiwe kwamba mtu anapoteza kura and then anakataa kukubali matokeo, and then inaanza kuleta shida, watu wanapoteza mali zao, watu wanaaga dunia kwa sababu ya mambo ya police and all that. Tuweze kuamini tume yetu, na umeona hata BBI ikisema kwamba hii electoral commission kunaenda kuwa na multi-sectoral representation, so that religious sector iko pale, law society iko pale, political parties iko pale. So ile IBC ambayo tunaleta na ambayo ina gain jinsi ulivyosema uaminifu kwa Wakenya,
kutoka kwa Wakenya.
Yes, ni kwamba tunafili IBC is well represented. Kama religious organizations ziko pale, tunaamini ya kwamba watatekeleza mambo ambayo inafaa kwa uadilifu. Law Society of Kenya waweze kutetea katiba, na kama ni political parties wajue kwamba political parties pia ziko na sera aina hii na hii. So ni ku make sure tu kuna uadilifu, uaminifu, uwazi na usawa katika kutekeleza mambo ya election. But until we sort the issue of electoral trust, then tutarudia pale kwa hiyo shida ya uchaguzi. Kwa sababu it will remain an issue until it is sorted. So na hope ya kwamba Wakenya wataendelea kuwa na imani katika tume ya uchaguzi, na pia Wakenya wataendelea kusupport IBC kuwa independent, kwa sababu pia wakifeel we don't trust them and they are trying their best ya kwamba watekeleza uchaguzi huru na haki, then itakuwa shida. Masuala ya Mudavadi, kuna tume ambazo zinachunguza mambo hayo, na maybe wakileta ripoti tutaweza kuiangalia tuone ukweli wake.
Naam, bila shaka mtazamaji, tunazungumza kuhusiana na mstakabali wa kisiasa humu nchini. Tumekuwa tukiangazia tu mambo ambayo tunatarajia kushuhudia katika eneo bunge la Matungu na vilevile Kabuchai, wakati ambapo wananchi watakuwa wakielekea debeni hapo kesho kuwachagua wawakilishi wao katika bunge la kitaifa. Na bila shaka nimekuwa nikizungumza naye Edwin Kegoli ambaye ni mchanganuzi wa masuala ya kisiasa, na vilevile ili kuendelea na mjadala huu tunaungana naye Stephen Mwekesi ambaye vilevile ni mchanganuzi wa masuala ya kisiasa. Karibu sana Stephen kwenye mjadala huu, na pengine tunapozidi tu kuzungumza kuhusiana na yale ambayo tunatarajia katika eneo bunge la Matungu kule Kabuchai, ningependa tuzungumze kuhusiana na siasa za maeneo, manake humu nchini kumekuwa watu wanasema kuhusu siasa za Ukambani, siasa za kule Pwani na vilevile eneo la Western. Ningependa kupata tu kauli yako kuhusiana na umuhimu wa hizi siasa za maeneo, manake hivi majuzi tumekuwa tukipata upande wa Pwani unasema ya kwamba unataka kuwa na chama chao cha kisiasa. Pengine kauli yako ni ipi kuhusiana na mwelekeo huu ambao pengine maeneo yanataka kuchukua kwa sasa?
Asante sana. Kweli ni kwamba siasa yetu ya Kenya imekuwa ni ya maeneo kwa sababu ya vile katiba ile ambayo tulikuwa nayo hapo awali tulipoanza nchi yetu ya Kenya ilikuwa imegawanya nchi katika maeneo 8, na ilikuwa ni kawaida ya sisi kuweza kutunga na kuweza kuendeleza siasa zetu tukiangazia kupitia kwa hizi mikoa tunaweza jisaidia vipi kama wananchi iwapo wanasiasa watashikana na ili kuweza kuendeleza yale hisia wanazo katika mambo ya uongozi ya nchi ya Kenya. Na kutokana na historia hii ndio inaonekana ya kwamba utapata ya kwamba kuna wale ambao wanasimamia mambo yao kama watu kutoka mkoa wa Magharibi, wale ambao wanasimamia mambo yao kama ile inajulikana kama Mount Kenya region ama Gema, na utapata pia wapwani pia wako nayo wamejaribu sasa kujisimamia kutumia mfumo kama huu wa jumuiya wa kaunti za pwani ili kuweza kujaribu kueneza zile siasa ambazo wanaona zitawafaidi wao iwapo itafika mwaka wa 2022 katika uchaguzi. Kwa hivyo kwangu mimi sioni ni kama tutaweza kuachana na mambo haya ya kutumia hizi regions ili kuweza kujileta pamoja ili kueneza siasa. Na inaonekana ya kwamba vile watu wanavyoona iwapo BBI itaweza kupita na zile viti vitakavyokuwa zimetengwa kugawanywa, itakuwa ni wale ambao wameweza kusimama na kuweza kuwakilisha maeneo yao ndio wataweza kupata vyeo hivyo na kuweza kusimama kama deputy prime minister kulingana na vile wameweza kuleta watu wao pamoja katika region hizo mikoa ambazo wameshikana pamoja.
Tukisalia tu kwenye hilo swala, pengine kauli yako ni ipi kuhusiana na eneo hili la pwani kutaka kuwa na chama chao? Manake tunachofahamu ni kwamba unapata ya kwamba upande wa pwani leo hii unasema ya kwamba unaunga mkono ODM, unapata ya kwamba viongozi pengine wa Mlima Kenya wanaunga mkono Jubilee. Tumekuwa tukizoea ya kwamba ndio ni eneo, lakini chama ambacho kinaungwa mkono ni chama ambacho kina sura ya kitaifa. Lakini sasa hivi tunaposhuhudia ni kwamba pwani kuna upande wa viongozi ambao wanasema ya kwamba wanataka chama chao kipya. Pengine tofauti itakuwa ni ipi katika ulingo wa kisiasa humu nchini ikiwa hayo yatatekelezwa?
Utafutaji wa kuwa na chama kimoja cha kuwakilisha matakwa ya watu ambao wametoka kutoka eneo za pwani imekuwa ni jambo limekuweko kutoka mwaka za jadi, na jambo ambalo tunaliona kwa sasa ni kwamba imefikia wakati ambapo imeonekana ya kwamba vile pwani ilikuwa imeungana kabisa na chama kile cha ODM kwa muhula wa election kama 2 hivi ambazo zimepita, wameona ya kwamba hawajawapata kufaidika, haswa ukiangazia kwamba kumekuwa na magavana wawili sasa ambao wamekuwa ni vigogo katika pwani ambao sasa wanaenda kustaafu kupitia kwa vile katiba ilivyo sasa. Kwa hivyo wengi wao wameona ya kwamba ni vyema basi waanze kutafuta mbinu mwafaka ya kuweza kujiinua na kujiendeleza kisiasa, na ndio maana tunapata mtu kama Gavana Kingi ambaye ameamua ya kwamba yeye atajaribu kukusanya vile vyama ambavyo viko katika pwani na kuunda chama kimoja ambacho kitawasilisha na zile hoja ambazo wapwani wanazo ili kuweza kupata nafasi katika ile meza ya kitaifa na kupata viti ambavyo vitasaidia watu wa pwani. Kauli hii ambayo Bwana Kingi ameamua kufuata ni kauli ambayo wapwani wengi wanatazama kwa umbali, kwa sababu kabla wakati huu hakuna ile effort ambayo imefanywa na hao magavana kuweza kuleta wapwani pamoja kwa kisiasa wala kwa mambo ya kiuchumi. Hii jumuiya ya kaunti za pwani ni jambo tu, wazo tu ambazo limekuwa kwa wale wataalam na wale wanaitwa professionals wa kaunti ya za pwani, lakini hawajaweza kukaa chini na kuweza kuangazia ni vipi watakavyoanza kuhakikisha kwamba jumuiya hii ya pwani inaweza kutunza mambo ya kisiasa na mambo ya kiuchumi ili kuweza kufaidi wananchi wa chini. Kwa hivyo azimio hilo bado tunaliona likiwa la mbali, lakini hata hivyo kuna zile vyama ambavyo vimeamua kwamba kukuwa na ile chama cha national image kama vile ODM inavyofanya. Umeona naibu wa rais William Ruto pia ameweza kuingiza miguu huko katika maeneo ya pwani na kuweza kujaribu kujaribu kuleta viongozi pamoja na kuweza kuweka katika kikombe kimoja kama ile chama chake cha UDA, ili waweze kusema ya kwamba vyama hivi vya kujigawa na kusema ni kutoka kwa region fulani fulani havitapata mwelekeo siku za usoni. Raila, hili ni jambo ambalo limemshika kwa sasa, na unaona ndio maana ametilia mkazo kufanya ziara katika kaunti hizi za pwani kujaribu kuleta umoja na kuwezesha chama hicho kupata nguvu ya kuweza kustahimili kufika hizi elections ambazo zinakuja za 2022.
Na ningependa kupata kauli yako Edwin kuhusiana na hili swala la vyama kulingana na maeneo, manake tunapoangalia katika mswada wa BBI ni kwamba baadhi ya mapendekezo ni kuhakikisha kwamba maeneo ambayo yalikuwa yanahisi ya kwamba yametengwa basi yanahusishwa. Hiyo ni njia moja ambayo serikali imekuwa ikipigania sana kuhakikisha kwamba kila mmoja anahisi amehusishwa, lakini tuangalie pwani ni kwamba kuna hilo pendekezo ya kwamba kuwe na chama kipya, angalau pengine pwani inahisi ya kwamba ni wakati wawe na kiongozi ambaye ataongoza taifa. Je, unaona hii ndio njia bora zaidi kwa yale maeneo kuhisi ya kwamba yamehusishwa, ama ni mfumo upi ambao pengine unastahili kutumika ili kusauti au kusikika?
Nafikiria kwamba kwa wakati mwingi political parties zetu hazijakuwa na suluhu ya matatizo ambayo yamekuwa yakiwakumba wananchi, na eneo la pwani likiazimia kuwa na chama ambacho ni cha pwani, sijaona njia mwafaka ya kuweza kutatua masuala ambayo yanakumba wananchi wa pwani, kwa sababu it is not a matter of a shortage of political parties, but issue imekuwa leadership. Issue imekuwa inability ya wale ambao tumewapatia public mandate kutimiza ahadi zao kwa wananchi, na pia issue imekuwa sisi kama wananchi, kwa sababu wakati mheshimiwa anakuja kule mashinani tunatarajia aweze kutupatia kitu kidogo. Wakati mheshimiwa anarudi kule mashinani hatumuulizi maswali magumu ambayo ni jinsi gani ametumia nafasi yake ya uongozi kuweza kunufaisha maisha ya vijana, kwa sababu unaenda kule mashinani unapata vijana wamekaa kwa base, unaona hawana agenda, hawana riwaza, hawana chochote cha kufanya, wanangoja tu zile handouts. Na handout itakusaidia namna gani? Mambo ya chama ni mambo secondary to development, to progress, to economic empowerment, to youth empowerment. Wakati tunaongelelea mambo ya putting up incubation centers kwa kila ward ambayo BBI ina propose, hiyo ni a direct answer to issue ya unemployment, issue ya young people kuwa creative and entrepreneurial and innovative, na hawana jinsi ya kuweza kusaidiwa in terms of mentoring, in terms of support, in terms of training, in terms of facilitation. Wakiweza kupatiwa hii vigezo ambazo zitawainua katika maisha, and then masuala ya siasa na vyama ya eneo hili, vyama vya eneo lile, they'll always be secondary, because it is not a matter of political parties but ability of leaders could deliver on what they should be delivering. So pwani ikisema tunataka chama chetu, kwa miaka mingapi wamekuwa kiazimia chama chao, unaona? Na unapata kwamba kupitia kwa vyombo vya habari unapata wakianza kupanga mchakato huu, kuna viongozi wa pwani pia wanapushi upande ule. Unaona kama Salim Mvurya anaegemea upande wa naibu rais William Ruto, ukikuja Ali Hassan Joho ako upande wa ODM, Amason Kingi ako ODM banana. Sasa ukianza kuwaleta pamoja unaona ya kwamba hakuna the clear leader ambaye anaweza provide direction as and when and until they sort out the issue of leadership, so that kama wanataka a regional party then waanze na develop a structure of leadership, so that tujue kama ni Ali Hassan Joho, yeye ndiye kiongozi wa wapwani, yeye ndiye atakuwa anatetea masuala ya wapwani katika meza kuu ya kitaifa. Kama hawajatekeleza hilo swala, then itakuwa vigumu, kwa sababu Ali Hassan Joho huenda kaleta chama chake na kusikuwe na viongozi wote wa pwani wakiegemea upande huo. So first of all, they sort out the issue of leadership, na angalia kwamba ni masuala gani ambayo yanataka kupewa kipaumbele. Kama ni masuala ya vyama ngapi viko pwani already? Kuna ODM, kuna ANC, kuna mambo hii ya UDA inaingia kule ndani. So ni nini ambacho watafanya ili kuempower wananchi, so that we focus political parties kwa delivery manifesto. Unajua cause ukisema kama ni chama cha Ford Kenya, nini inakuja clear as it's like Ford Kenya face yake ni nini, ANC face yake ni nini, ODM face yake ni nini. Ukienda katika taifa la Marekani utapata Democrats, unajua masuala yao inakuanga hivi, Republicans mambo yao kama. Ukienda UK Conservative ukijua conservative they stand for this, unajua, so tuweze pia kuweka philosophies kwa political parties so that they are just not private entities za watu.
Naam, ningependa kupata kauli yako ya mwisho Stephen kuhusiana na mjadala huu. Pengine tutarajie siasa za aina gani mwaka 2022 kulingana na yale ambayo tumekuwa tukishuhudia humu nchini sasa hivi. Vile vile tunaangalia kwa kifupi tu kuhusiana na chama cha Jubilee ambacho hivi majuzi kimekuwa kikiwabandua tu wale viongozi ambao wanaonekana kana kwamba ambao viongozi wa Jubilee wanasema ya kwamba wamekuwa wakitekeleza yale ambayo hayastahili chamani.
Kwangu mimi ninapoangazia vile vyama vya kisiasa vinavyoendelea kujipanga na kujitayarisha kuhusu mchakato huu wa 2022, inaonekana ya kwamba kutakuwa na watu wengi wakijaribu kujipanga kuona ni vipi watakavyoweza kuchukua chama na kuweza kuitumia kama chombo cha kuweza kupita katika mwaka wa 2022. Ukweli ni kwamba siasa zetu zinatumia vyama ili kuweza kupitisha wale candidates waweze kupata zile vyeo ambavyo wanavyotafuta. Kwa hivyo ninaona ya kwamba kama chama cha Jubilee kwao kwa sasa wana haja kuu ya kuonyesha kwamba chama hicho sio chama ambacho kinaweza tumika na naibu wa rais William Ruto. Kwa hivyo naona bado wataendelea kufanya yale wawezavyo ili kuweza kujitenga na bwana William Ruto. William Ruto naye amejitolea mhanga kuweza kujenga chama cha UDA na litaweza anajaribu kuiweka iwe na sura ya kitaifa ili weza kujiendeleza. Lakini kwangu mimi nikiona kwa undani na vile navyotazama Wakenya wameweza kujanjaruka, wameanza kuangalia mambo kwa macho tofauti. Mambo ya kusema ya kwamba vyama ndivyo vitaweza kufanya mtu awe na vyeo yameanza kugeuka. Tumeona idadi ya wale candidates wanapita kwa kutumia independent candidate, unaona ni kwamba ni wengi sana. Na jambo hili mimi naona tukielekea katika mwaka wa 2022, mambo kama mchujo, watu wengi wataweza kuachana na kuenda kwa vyama ambavyo vitahitaji watu kwenda kufanya zile nominations ama mchujo. Wataanza kuangazia nafasi ambazo itakuwa ni rahisi sana ili kuweza kupata nafasi ya kukua katika kinyang'anyiro hilo na kuweza kupata kushinda na kupata ushindi.
Naam, shukran sana kwa kauli yako, na bila shaka mtazamaji, kufikia hapo tunafika kwenye tamati ya Tamrini. Nimekuwa nikizungumza naye Edwin Kegoli ambaye ni mchanganuzi wa kisiasa na vile vile Stephen Mwekesi, mchanganuzi wa masuala ya kisiasa vile vile. Tutafika tamati hapo leo hii, lakini kumbuka ya kwamba taarifa zaidi utakuwa unazipata mwendo wa saa 7 kwa lugha ya Kimombo ukiletewa naye Ben Troy Njue. Naitwa Nancy Okware, mfasiri wa lugha ya ishara ni Susan Thuku. Kwaheri.
Shalom viewers, thank you for watching KBC Channel 1, and we are glad to be here and to be in your homes this day. I just want us to be encouraged by Psalm 23. The Bible says that the Lord is my shepherd and I shall not want. Amen. And that God is the one that is leading you. And I just want you to think about the role of a shepherd. The shepherd walks before and in front of the sheep. The shepherd has the ability to see what is ahead. The shepherd looks for good pastures for the sheep to enjoy, and the shepherd looks for the appropriate water for the sheep to drink. And I just want you to know that this month, and even as the year 2021 advances, that the Lord is your shepherd. The Lord Yahweh, Jehovah Jireh, is going to shepherd you, and he is going to give to you. Jehovah Rapha is going to be your healer. And even in these times when people are struggling with diseases, when people are struggling with COVID-19, I want you to know that Jehovah Rapha is your God and that he is going to see you through. I want you to know that Jehovah Nissi is going to be your banner. Why? Because he is your shepherd. And when you come in challenging times, I want you to know that the banner over you is going to be love in the name of Jesus Christ. I want you to know that he is Emmanuel to you. He is your shepherd. He is constantly with you. And he is Emmanuel to you. And he is not going to leave you. And I just want you to walk in confidence, knowing that he is Emmanuel and that he is always with you in your waking up, in your doing your activities, and even when you go down to lay down to sleep, that he is still Emmanuel, and he will be Emmanuel to you. Again, when he says that the Lord is your shepherd, you shall not want. I want you to know that because God has the advantage of elevation, he sees things that you are not able to see, that God has gone ahead of you. And the Bible says in Psalm 91 verse 16, that with long life shall God satisfy you and show you his salvation. What does that mean? It means that because he's your shepherd and he's going ahead of you, that there are dangers that he sees and that he averts the dangers. He removes you from a place where the enemy wants to trick you, to trap you, and to put you in accidents and incidents. The Lord is your shepherd. He is going ahead of you. Do not allow despair to come into your heart. Do not feel stranded. Do not think that this world is against you or the world is caving in. I just want you to know that the Lord, Yahweh, is your shepherd. And I just want you to show one person that God was his shepherd. And I want you to think about David. When David comes against Goliath, David did not even know what was going on. But when he brought food to his brothers, he found the armies of Israel in a place where they were so intimidated by Goliath, and here's what's going on. But because the Lord is the shepherd of David, he was able to bring down Goliath. Whatever it is that 2021 is going to present to you, I want you to know that the Lord is your shepherd. I want you to wake up every morning and say that the Lord is my shepherd. And why is he your shepherd? Because he has a love relationship with you. God loves you so much. And he doesn't love you because you prayed or you did not pray. He doesn't love you because you're short or you're tall. He doesn't love you because of something that you did. God loves you, and God loves you unconditionally. And so I want you to know that as the Lord shepherds you, it is a love relationship, and he wants to have a personal relationship with you. And because he loves you, I pray that you are going to love God back. How can we love God back? We cannot bring candy to God. We cannot send chocolates to heaven. But how can we love God back? Is when we do what God has asked us to do. And as God shepherds you, I pray that you are going to follow, that you're going to be a faithful follower. I want you to think about sheep. Sheep follow the shepherd. Even if they do not see where the shepherd is taking them, sheep follow the shepherd. And even when God has not told you the totality of where he is going to take you, I want you to know that he is a faithful shepherd. He has never failed. He will not fail. And your life is in God's hands. He has engraved you in the palms of his hand. You are the apple of his eye. So he is shepherding you from outside of you and also within you. Amen. God loves you, and God is going to be your shepherd. And the Bible says that his rod and his staff are going to comfort you. Can I tell you that God is going to comfort you this year? The Bible says that the Spirit of God will comfort us on every side. And may God comfort you. Whatever it is that 2021 is going to present you with, do not be dismayed. Do not run away from God, but just stand still, knowing that his rod and his staff are going to comfort you, my brother and my sister. Allow me to pray for you. Mighty God, I just thank you, Lord, for reminding us that you are our shepherd and that we shall not want. I pray for the viewer, decreeing and declaring that my viewer will not lack in the year 2021, and that they will feel your presence, that they will feel your love, that they will see all the aspects of God in you in their lives, in the mighty name of Jesus. Father God, I pray that the year 2021 is going to be safe for them, that they will move forward and upward in Jesus' name. Amen. Once again, my name is Evangelist Faith Werimu from the Manifest Sons of God Church, and I am glad to have brought you the word of God. Shalom. God bless you.